Marvel. Tony Stark, I have a genius son stronger than me. Chapter 61. Seeing Tony's shameless appearance, Mark is quite speechless. He has taken Tony's style away from him. Well, since you have strongly requested it, Hangpao, play with him again. Mark ordered the Hangpao next to him. After getting the order, the horizontal gun stepped on the Hot Wheels and swished into the open space that was used as a temporary battlefield. Immediately afterwards, Tony also entered the clearing arrogantly. Although Mark said that even with the assistance of the acceleration world, he only had a chance to escape under the attack of the floating gun. But Tony doesn't believe this. The weapon system that Mark invented with a floating gun as the attack unit is indeed novel and practical, and at the same time, the attack firepower and coverage are perfect. But he believed more in the power of his armor. In fact, Tony has always been limited by his own reaction speed and other objective factors, and Tony has not been able to bring out all the performance on the armor, so Mark's estimation of his combat effectiveness must be inaccurate. And now with the assistance of the accelerated world, he can not only stimulate the full potential of Mark IV, but also quickly respond to attacks against him and dodge in time. Therefore, Tony is full of confidence in the battle with Hangpao this time. JARVIS, is the new module connected? Sir, the new module, Accelerated World, has been loaded successfully. Do you want to start it? Start. Although the search hasn't started yet, in order not to let himself fall into the passive again, Tony opened the world of acceleration in advance. Accelerated World is starting, the identity verification is successful, the physical indicators are normal, and the usage requirements are met, and the acceleration is about to begin. 3, 2, 1, speed up. The accelerated world officially opened, and Tony immediately noticed this change. Everything around seems to have fallen into a static state, and the movement of the body needs to overcome numerous resistances. JARVIS, turn on the coordination system and motion assistance backquote. It's already opened, sir. It's a lot easier now, and it's considered normal activities. I already gave you the first hand in the last game, this time I'm not welcome. In order to win this victory, Tony was no longer humbly, and even a little despicable, launched an offensive directly against the horizontal artillery without warning. Tony, with the acceleration world assistance, at the moment, with the help of the brain overclocking state, the reaction speed is greatly enhanced. Without any scruples, the speed of Mark IV is increased to the maximum limit 15 Mach. The violent sonic boom shakes Mark far away. They covered their ears with pepper, but they couldn't see Tony's figure at all, and could only tell Tony's position from 1 or 2 afterimages occasionally. At this extreme speed, Tony quickly approached the horizontal cannon and came in front of it. But Tony didn't rush forward, but fired at close range. Moreover, Tony's offense was to change a place with one shot. He was about 3.5 meters away from the horizontal artillery, and attacked in circles centered on the horizontal artillery. After the reaction speed has greatly increased, Tony can easily control the armor to make precise sharp turns at a high speed of Mach 15, and at the same time fire accurately at the target of the project. In this short instant, Tony had fired more than a dozen energy cannons around the front, rear, left, and right directions of the horizontal cannon. For the horizontal cannon without flight ability, there was no way into the sky. However, Tony soon became uncomfortable. Because just when he thought his attack had been achieved, after the smoke dissipated, the horizontal artillery was still standing in the center of the field unscathed under the devastating shelling, and even the turf under his feet was not attacked. A little bit of it. JARVIS, scan, what the hell is going on? Received, it is being scanned, sir. The result shows that another shield formed by an energy field around the other party has blocked all your attacks. Energy field. Hearing the scan results given by JARVIS, Tony was surprised and quickly looked at the horizontal artillery. Sure enough, around his body, the floating cannon that was originally used as an attack unit was formed into a spherical lattice, which encased him as a whole. The floating artillery at each node in this lattice will emit energy waves to the 3 adjacent nodes. The energy waves generate a powerful spherical energy field under mutual superimposition and resonance, and become the indestructible protective neighbor of the horizontal artillery. Can not only attack, but also defense. This is simply a panacea. A separate energy source increases the endurance time. The separate design saves a lot of structural space for other mechanical structures and provides more for designers. The design space, envy want it. But now is not the time to think about this, we must find a way to break this deadlock. If you want to break this absolute defense, you can only use yourself as a bait to attract it to attack me. Once you switch to offensive mode, then his defensive spherical lattice will naturally break itself. As soon as he thought of it, Tony started to slow down, and when he moved, he stopped walking behind the gun, but swayed in front of him as much as possible. It was definitely impossible to let go of the horizontal cannon that saw the opportunity, and immediately switched to the attack mode, shooting towards Tony in a burst. On the other side, seeing Hangpao give up defense and take the initiative to attack, Tony was delighted and his chance came. Under the acceleration state of the brain overclocking, Tony faced a dozen or so floating guns covering attacks. From these attacks, Tony dodged while advancing dexterously, not enough in front of the horizontal guns. At 1 meter, Tony stretched his limbs, and the energy of the arc reactor in his chest gathered. This was a big move. Seeing a flash of brilliance, Tony's energy-storing chest energy cannon released the maximum power, the target's great head of the horizontal cannon. What do you want me to do? Mark, your kid is too careful, Tony smiled helplessly. That's right, the mortal tactic he had planned just now was once again stopped by the horizontal artillery. Tony never expected that the floating artillery around the horizontal artillery could be 2 by 2 as a unit to form an energy shield. It was this seemingly miniature energy shield that just took over the attack of its own energy cannon for the horizontal cannon, and after completing the defense, the two floating cannons split again and continued to attack Tony. This maneuverability is too strong. Seeing these floating guns floating in the air, they can attack and defend, and they are not stagnant between offensive and defensive transitions. They are flexible and maneuverable, which really makes him envious. I designed a steel battle suit for myself with a floating gun as the main attack system. However, the current situation does not allow him to think about these things with ease. JARVIS, help me analyze and see if the opponent has any weaknesses. What am I going to do now to break through the opponent's defense? Tony's current situation is not optimistic. Although he can still rely on the help of the acceleration world to dodge the intensive attack of the floating cannon flexibly at this moment, don't forget that the use of the acceleration world is limited by the time limit, and in actual combat, because with mental stress and a large amount of adrenaline released, the body's energy consumption will be higher than Mark estimated. This means that even with the assistance of Mark IV, Tony can't support the theoretical 1 hour under the overclocking state of the brain time. More importantly, who knows if Mark has left behind what he didn't use. After all, since the start of the war, Hangpao has exceeded Tony's expectations several times, which surprised him. It is precisely because of this uncertainty that Tony becomes more anxious in his passiveness. Sir, after analyzing the enemy's protective energy field, unless you can crush the frontal breakthrough with an absolute energy level, you can only rush to the opponent's attack node defense program to automatically start and complete your attack before the protective cover is deployed. After listening to JARVIS's analysis, Tony frowned. Can I only attack with absolute strength? If I really have this ability, why do I want to attack you? I just went straight up. Without waiting for Tony to continue thinking about the strategy to deal with the horizontal artillery, Mark, who had been watching the battle next to him, gave a new order to the horizontal artillery, hanging artillery. Don't drag it anymore. You also start to accelerate the world and end the battle directly. Look. He refused to accept it this time. What? Tony was shocked by the information revealed by Mark's order. The big guy in front of him also has world acceleration support. It took only 1 second for Mark to give the command, but Tony, who was in a state of 600 times acceleration, took a full 10 minutes to hear this sentence, and only 8 minutes passed when he knew that the horizontal artillery had an acceleration device. There are 2 full minutes of reaction time left, but Tony couldn't think of any strategy against the enemy. He couldn't do it under overclocking. At most, he could barely protect himself. Now I want you to suddenly tell me that you can also speed up. How do you fight? Tony has no countermeasures, and he won't show mercy on the horizontal artillery side. After the acceleration assist is turned on, the attack frequency of the floating artillery can be increased by 1/3. After all, the cooling of the muzzle must be considered. The improvement is not obvious. Tony even gritted teeth can handle it. What really made Tony uncomfortable was that Hangpao's prediction of his movement after the start of the acceleration world of the nursery rhyme was more accurate than before. No matter how he dodges, it can always aim at himself first, which became the last thing that overwhelmed Tony. Straw. After trying several times and the results were the same, Tony gave in decisively again. In fact, this is because Tony was under too much pressure after being suppressed, so that he miscalculated the strength of the horizontal gun. After all, even if he also received acceleration assistance, how can the prediction be 100% accurate? It's just that there are enough floating guns around the horizontal cannon. No matter how slippery you are, the direction you can hide is still nothing more than up, down, left and right. My dozen or so cannons aim at all possible positions in advance. Can the judgment be inaccurate? Tony, who was defeated again, came to Mark directly this time. You kid really doesn't save me a bit of face. And you, the shape-shifting King Kong, can also use the acceleration world. Does he have a brain? Oh daddy, you can't say that. I don't think you always underestimate the enemy and leave you a profound lesson. If you run into a tricky enemy in the future, you won't be defeated because of this problem, no. And who told you that the acceleration world can only be used by humans? Compared to human beings who need to strictly control the acceleration magnification due to their limited and physical conditions, they only need to replace the hardware to increase the speed of the computing core exponentially. The robot is obviously bigger to use. Quote. But after calming down, thinking of the 3 new inventions Mark brought over today, he also had to admire. Not only is every invention full of eye-opening imagination, but the technical content and technological innovation in it have also benefited him a lot. Mark's performance this time really made him feel what is the Yangtze River back wave push before the waves, blue is better than blue. What makes him admire even more is that this guy Mark is simply a master of time management. Needless to say from that, no matter how difficult the technology is, a new invention can always be made every 3 steps. Now has a nutritional dormancy cabin and a virtual laboratory, which not only greatly extends the time available to me, but also greatly reduces the time I use for rest. I feel that my body feels a lot easier after experiencing it for a while. Mark will not be able to easily challenge the limit during the day, and challenge the limit at night. I am envious if you think about it. No, brat. You must help me get both the virtual laboratory and the shape-shifting King Kong right away when you go back. I can't wait a second, Tony thought, looking directly at Mark, and commanding in his father's voice rode. No, you don't worry about waiting, Mark, you should still finish the virtual game first. Don't be influenced by Tony, after all, it has something to do with your company's performance in the next quarter, Pepper immediately objected. Huh, it's very high-sounding. I think you just can't wait to experience the virtual game. So what? Not only can I help Mark's game test, but this is the product planned by their company. Seeing Tony and Pepper arguing over priority issues, Mark quietly left the garage very wisely. If he gets involved in a while, the picture is so beautiful that he can't even imagine it. After a good night's rest at home, Mark rode on his shape-shifting King Kong sports car, pulled the trailer with the nutritional dormancy cabin, and returned to his company's laboratory. Today is the Christmas holiday. The employees of the company who were busy on weekdays went home to relax or spend time with their families. The whole building was empty except Mark. Let the horizontal artillery enter the restroom under the building for inspection and maintenance. Mark took out a headband from the locker at the front desk, and there was also an antenna to enhance the signal. Mark puts on the headband, and the indicator light on it immediately lights up. After a while, creak creak, a small and messy noise rose, one after another. Countless black particles rushed in front of Mark like a wave. This is the black technology invented by Ahong in The Big Hero 6 and taken away by the villain in the movie The Tiny Magnetic Robot. The headband on his head is an idea wave amplification controller made to facilitate the control of a large number of miniature magnetic robots. Yesterday, I finished all the work in Mark and prepared to take my 3 new inventions home and show them off in front of Tony. It turned out that everyone in the company had already been on vacation, and no one could help him from the laboratory on the top floor to the 600 kilograms nutrient dormancy cabin to the underground garage for half a year. So Mark simply got out the micromagnetic robot, the good baby at the bottom of the pressure box, and there was a micromagnetic robot on the scene. After that, I can help whether it is doing experiments or moving things, and the technology is not difficult. With the help of Dubai, 3D printers can manufacture micro-magnetic robots in batches, and the head-mounted controller is even simpler. When Mark was researching virtual reality mainframes, he had already mastered the use of Mindwave technology. The miniature magnetic robot was summoned. Mark easily commanded them to combine to form a huge amount of POM, directly picked up the heavy nutrient dormant cabin, and followed Mark behind him on the elevator to the top floor laboratory. Repositioning the nutritional dormancy chamber back to its original position, Mark began to connect it with a sewage pipe so that the dormant chamber can drain the waste liquid left in the waste tank after Tony used it yesterday. After completing these tasks, Mark is ready to change his clothes and enter the virtual laboratory to complete the virtual game development platform and sales platform, as well as the virtual game, Sword Art Online, promised by Pepper. But when he changed his clothes and came to the front of the dormant cabin, the white reminder sounded, "Master, there is a problem with the sewage treatment system." "Huh, what's the matter?" Mark asked a little strangely. The sewage treatment system of the dormant cabin was designed by him himself. The theoretical service life is as high as 10 years without replacing the filter element, but it has been installed only a few times now. Why is there a problem? According to the sewage analyzer, the treated sewage pollutants exceed the standard and fail to meet the safe discharge standards. Moreover, the problem remains unsolved even after several cycles of filtration. After turning on the spectrum analyzer, I found that other pollutants in the sewage had been removed, but it contained a large amount of heavy metal palladium, which caused the final test result to be unqualified. The sewage treatment system did not take heavy metals into consideration when it was designed, so the sewage could not be completely purified. Quote, "Heavy metal palladium." Mark suddenly realized that the nutritional dormant capsule was only used by Tony when he showed Tony the virtual laboratory last night, and Tony will indeed upgrade the arc reactor on his chest due to palladium poisoning in the future. The second-generation reactor using synthesis new elements. So that means that the old man's body has already been corroded by the metal palladium. Now I have to find a way to ensure 100% safety to take out the old man's chest shrapnel as soon as possible. Otherwise, it will only be me. Synthesis out the new element in advance by yourself, and upgrade the arc reactor. Fortunately, now that there is a nutritional dormancy chamber, even if the action is a little slower, the heavy metal elements in the old man's body can be expelled through the dormant chamber's repair function, without worrying about life. Dubai, help me place an order for new materials. I want to add a heavy metal treatment pump to the sewage treatment system. Quote, "Received, Master." Mark didn't expect that he ran up to Tony to show off, and was able to find out such a hidden danger of such huge amounts of Tony. He has been obsessed with scientific research and he almost forgot that Tony had such a big trouble. In the afternoon, Tony appeared in Mark's laboratory. "Why are you calling me in a hurry? My shape-shifting King Kong and virtual laboratory are completed." In the morning, after Mark discovered Tony's health problem, he wanted to tell Tony about it. If you tell him, early detection and early treatment, Tony may be able to build the second-generation arc reactor earlier to solve this problem. But Mark is also worried that Tony will affect his state after knowing this hidden danger, and his attitude towards the relationship between himself and Pepper may change. But if you don't tell him, Tony will be able to discover it by himself sooner or later. After all, Dubai's body was left at home by Mark. If Tony had a personal examination on a whim, everything would be clear. Even if Tony didn't find Dubai to check, the changes in his body couldn't escape his eyes. After hesitation for a while, Mark still decided to tell Tony the truth, so he called him to meet in his laboratory in the afternoon. "Do you know your physical condition?" Mark asked tentatively. "Condition? What can be the situation? Didn't I have Dubai checked at all when I came back from Afghanistan? Except for the chest injury, there is nothing to do. The rest are not serious injuries." Facing Mark's unknown question, Tony answered definitely. "Your current situation is terrible. Your physical condition is very bad now. Using the arc reactor in your chest to provide energy for the steel armor has brought a great burden to it. The palladium metal inside it will penetrate into your blood vessels and follow the entire blood supply system. Your body circulates and accumulates, and if this continues, you have to meet with Grandpa." Hearing Mark's words, Tony's eyes widened in surprise. "No, you are alarmist. Since the invention of the steel armor, I haven't worn it for several actual battles. How can I bring it to the reactor? Come to bear it. In fact, after carefully reviewing the physical condition he came in, Tony also doubted that he might have been poisoned by palladium, as Mark said. Recently, he often felt loss of appetite, muscle pain, and severe hair loss. However, its condition improved last night, and it was rare to have a good night's sleep, so with a fluke, he was still reluctant to believe this fact until the test report was put on the table. It's not alarmist. I also told you about the function of the nutritional dormancy cabin yesterday. It provides nutrition and energy for dogs when the brain is overclocked, while protecting the body in the real world. And its principle is to use the special reaction of the nutrient solution during the ionization process. This reaction can not only quickly replenish the necessary nutrients and energy for the body, but also improve cell metabolism and repairability, and help the body to restore health. You didn't even complete a repair course last night, but a large amount of palladium metal ions were still detected in the waste liquid of the nutrient solution. If you still don't believe me, I can ask Dubai to do a body scan for you. There should still be some residual palladium in your body. Mark persuaded with all his heart. No need. Tony waved his hand and refused. I believe it. I originally felt that I was in a good condition after the battle with Hengpao last night. I was lucky to think that it was just my illusion before. But when you say that the dormant cabin is okay after repairing the cells, I knew that it was not an illusion. I felt good last night because I was treated by the dormant cabin. If you let the media know that Iron Man will be life-threatening because of the armor he invented, it will definitely make the headlines of tomorrow's major news. Although Tony tried his best to be optimistic and teased himself easily, Mark still easily sensed that there was no taste in his words. He walked to Tony's side and patted Tony's back. It's okay, it's a big deal to repair the body with the nutrient hibernation chamber every 3 to 5. With its complete repair, you don't have to worry about the palladium poisoning endangering your life. I will do it in a few days. Send one to the villa for you, no money. As long as you start to pay attention now, before you find a once and for all solution, reduce the use of steel armor. If you must use it, you must enter the dormant cabin for a body repair after use, then there is no problem. Quote. Is it a once and for all solution? I now have to rely on the electromagnet adsorbent to hold the shrapnel on my chest to ensure my safety. If the problem is to be solved once and for all, then surgery to remove the shrapnel is the most thorough solution. But the risk of surgery is too great. Once I lie on the operating table, it is equivalent to handing over my life to someone else, and the failure rate of my operation is extremely high. Instead of betting on the low success rate, I might as well rely on an electromagnet to continue my life. After all, you kids, still I have no adulthood, and I am the only guardian, and now I am worried about another Pepper. Mark knows that Tony is scared. Because the success rate of this operation is not low, at least more than 70%. If it is handed over to an experienced surgeon, the success rate can be increased by at least 10%. But Tony was right. He couldn't afford to gamble and couldn't gamble deep down, because it was a gamble where he won without rewards and lost his bankruptcy. Then continue to fill this hole in your heart with the reactor, but you have to change a safety element. I will set up a project for this matter after I go back. Let Jarvis use Stark Industries' supercomputer to help me check all the elements I know so far. With Mark around to make suggestions, Tony's mood did not fluctuate much, and regardless of the result, since there will be no life worry, Tony is also very active in facing this challenge. 0 Find flowers 0. Well, you are better at atomic physics than me. You can start with the upgrade of the anti-arc reactor. I will help you start with other technical methods and try to find a safe solution to help you keep the fragments in your chest safe. Take it out. You have been told to Sister Pepper about this, lest she worry about it. Even if I didn't find a suitable solution in the end, it's a big deal to replace it with the high-density graphene lithium battery that I invented. It just needs to be recharged every few weeks. Quote. Haha, no problem. I'm relieved if you could help me. After all, you are the best at creating miracles. Tony at the moment finally smiled again, apparently having overcome this difficulty psychologically. This is the first time I have heard you compliment me in person. Are you dying and good? Seeing Tony's adjustment of his mentality, Mark also confidently joked. Boy, don't worry, your name won't be written on my will. Tony countered. It's okay, it's all small money here, ha ha ha. Mark smiled triumphantly. Based on the company's revenue, his net worth will surpass Tony in the near future, and even become the world's richest man. Okay, no kidding, I called you to come to me today. Apart from telling you about this, the most important thing is that you only briefly experienced the function of the virtual laboratory last night, and the restoring procedure of the hibernation cabin is not all it's done, so you'd better have a thorough body repair before you go back. Although there is no way to help you dissolve and expel the shrapnel from your chest, it can properly repair the dark wounds you left in Afghanistan and remove the remaining palladium. Clean. Tony nodded. Come on, let's start. Tony went directly into the nourishment dormancy chamber and began to repair his body. Outside the cabin, Mark gave an order to Dubai. Dubai, my private production room suspends the production of micromagnetic robots, and is fully engaged in the production of nutrient-dormant cabins and nutrient solutions. I need a finished product that will appear in Stark in Port Marbury tomorrow. In the manner. Received, Master. Time has come to February 2011. New York, which has just experienced the Chinese New Year cultural propaganda parade with crowds of people, at the moment ushered in a world-renowned event. The new season's flagship product of the Mark Research Center will be Madison Square Garden, home of the NBA team's New York Knicks, held its press conference. Judging from the previous publicity by the marketing team of the Mark Research Center, it directly shows that this is a revolutionary product that may set off changes in multiple industries. Although all the employees of Mark Scientific have kept their true colors strictly confidential, based on the trends and advancements led by the previously released personal health assistants, the new product still attracts a high degree of attention. In the past month or so, with the help of the acceleration function of the virtual laboratory, Mark not only completed the construction and testing of 2 gold-absorbing platforms with the efficiency that the entire company's employees were surprised, but also planned the game, Sword Art Online. The script and the entire world structure were completed by one person. The easy-to-operate and easy-to-use development platform also allowed the newly established game design department to quickly enter the working state. Based on Mark's construction, the entire team completed the content production of this game in only 1 week. In order to ensure the confidentiality of the company's new products, the game's testing was only conducted internally within the company, but 2 testers, Pepper and Tony, were added at the same time. The results of the test were a success. Even people who have seen the world like Tony are full of praise for the design and sight of the game. As for some small bugs that have not yet been discovered, they can only be patched after the release. And with the charm of Sword Art Online, the first virtual reality game, everyone believes that even if there are some small flaws, it can't hide its light. And tonight, it will be the moment when it shines out of its own light. On the other hand, Tony has been trying to find a way to replace the palladium element in the arc reactor since the last time he went back. Unfortunately, they all failed in the end. Jarvis told him that if there is such a substitute, or it has not been the unknown elements found or either man-made elements. So Tony is now beginning to move towards creating new elements. Although there is no gain yet, with the help of the restoration function of the nutritional dormancy cabin, he is healthy, eats well, and has no psychological problems. After Mark completed the company's affairs, he handed over a game plan called Attack on Titan to the game design department, and then turned to research whether there is a feasible way to remove the shrapnel from Tony's chest. After all, you don't have to worry about the company's products for the next quarter. As long as you simply upgrade the virtual reality host, you can change it from one generation to the second. It's right to follow the predecessor's way of collecting money. When will this road go? When it moves, it's when Mark makes another shot. After trying dozens of ideas in the virtual laboratory, Mark found that there was no way to increase the success rate to more than 95%. Obviously, such a success rate would not allow Tony to take risks. In the constant experimentation, Mark found that he finally went to the dead end again: the PIM particle. As long as you can, love that PIM particle is successfully prepared. After completing his black technology that integrates super soldier serum plus micro robots plus PIM particle, it will be able to solve Tony's problems 100%. It seems that I still have to continue to study the PIM particle, but that's okay. Once the PIM particle technology is successfully restored, then I will be able to advance several projects at the same time, which indirectly saves me time, but I hope the research process will go smoother and stop getting stuck. However, before coming to the Madison Square Garden at today's press conference, Mark, who just came out of the virtual laboratory, had no progress in the restoration of the PIM particle technology and still maintained the level before the dormant capsule came out, and made no progress. It seems that it is impossible to solve this problem quickly. When the time came to 7 p.m. New York time, all the audience had already entered the press conference. The lights suddenly dimmed, and a picture appeared on the giant display in the middle of the stage. It was a place with a beautiful environment and a fairyland. And in this wonderland, there is also a face that everyone here is very familiar with: Mark Stark. Guests, gentlemen and ladies, good evening everyone. Please forgive me for appearing in such a special way and talking with you across the screen, but please be patient and look down. I believe it will bring you surprise. Now I announce that the Spring New Product Launch Conference of the Mark Research Center has now officially started. Tonight I will lead the audience to experience a strange otherworld that is completely beyond your imagination. The next step is to witness the miracle. Mark shamelessly copied the classic lines of the famous magician Lu Qian in the past, but this sentence is indeed appropriate for this occasion tonight. A miracle is about to come. The environment where I am now has such a beautiful scenery, with lush vegetation, sparkling lake water, and colorful flower fields like carpets covering the whole land. Are you curious about where I am? Across the screen, Mark turned his head to look at the audience at the press conference, as if he was really asking questions face to face. Yes, sure enough, after Mark asked this question, the audience had already burst out enthusiastic responses to the scenery of this place. Haha, I know that everyone will want to know. It is not wasted that I repeatedly selected among the 100 layers, and finally chose such a picturesque place. Hearing Mark's words, many viewers became curious about 687. What does this place have to do with the new product launch tonight? And is the 100 layers that Mark blurted out just now, is it a slip of the tongue or does it hide the unknown truth? In any case, Mark's marketing strategy for this conference has been successful, and he has completely lifted the appetite of the live audience and the viewers who watched the broadcast. The place where I am now is called Aincrad, and the site you see is a lake on the outskirts of Cora Road on the 22nd floor of Aincrad. Speaking of which, everyone is sure. I started to be curious, how come I have never heard of such a place? What does the 22nd floor mean? Don't worry, just follow me and continue to explore. After that, a dark blue square crystal appeared in Mark's hand for some reason. As soon as the brilliance flashed, Mark had disappeared. Then the screen changed, and Mark had appeared in another place. Wow! Seeing Mark on the screen suddenly disappeared and appeared in another place, the audience was in an uproar, shocked by this sudden scene. Is the Mark Research Center intending to take out the space transmission technology as a new season's product? If so, it is indeed enough to make waves in multiple industries. A YouTuber in the technology circle said. A media reporter next to him also said, if it is not for editing and special effects, please tell me the price, let me die. Space transmission technology is civilian, I don't believe that the price can be cheap. Among the many viewers who watched the broadcast, although some people felt that this must be a special effect, it was impossible for Mark to make a spatial transmission device, but most of them were conquered by the personal health assistant product and became the consumption of loyal fans of Mark products. Everyone, at the moment, it has been confirmed that the new product to be launched by the Mark Research Center tonight is this crystal that can realize spatial transmission. Oh, I heard the exclamation of the audience, don't you think that the corridor crystal in my hand is the product to be released tonight? Then you are very wrong, the protagonist tonight is not it. But if you want this thing, after a while after the real product is released, I guarantee it will be in sufficient supply. Believe me, you should be able to afford it with a little effort. Quote. Taking advantage of the information asymmetry with the audience, Mark frantically showed his own bad taste, but the promises he made are indeed true and effective. Even if you know afterwards that you have been tricked, you have nothing to do with him. The place I came now is outside the first-tier starting town of Aincrad. If you explain to me, don't blame me for not reminding you, you must remember to take your own weapons, otherwise there will be life-threatening. With that said, Mark once again pulled out an iron sword from nowhere. As soon as the screen turned, he saw a sturdy wild boar with a tiger file size, sprinting in the direction of Mark. Come here. Hiss. Seeing this scene, everyone at the scene took a breath and sweated for Mark's situation. However, Mark reacted very quickly. Before the wild boar could get close, he directly picked up and picked the wild boar to mid-air 0, and then followed by another chop. This wild boar was knocked to the ground without fighting back and was dying. This wild boar is too weak. Is it worthy of being a leveling mob in the novice zone? It's really unpopular. Also remind everyone again that in Aincrad, only cold weapons are allowed. The existence of a gun is 100% ban on guns. After Mark solved the wild boar calmly, he sent warm tips to the audience on the other side of the screen. In fact, even though Mark's movements were so cool and smooth just now, the boar mobs couldn't fight back. When he came here for the first time to fight against the wild boar monsters, but every time he was hit by the wild boars, he was killed in seconds. So out of anger, he paid tribute to the strongest Blood Alliance Knights Guild President Heathcliff Kayaba Akihiko. Mark used the highest authority as a game developer to open an acceleration hook for himself. Sure enough, the opening and hanging was cool for a while, and it has been cool all the time. From then on, any wild boar collision was no longer in Mark's eyes. So now that the general presentation of the new product to be released tonight is almost done, it's time to reveal its true colors for everyone. But before that, is there any witty audience who has just released our new spring products? If the answer is correct, then the new product luxury package at this conference will be delivered for free and installed on site. Quote, all of a sudden, the atmosphere on the scene became lively. Whether there were spectators who guessed the answer or not, they all raised their hands enthusiastically, hoping to get the opportunity to answer this time. It shows that people have a good impression of the Mark Research Center. How active, a new product that has not yet been revealed has caused a frenzied scramble for everyone. Then, please ask the black-haired beauty who is sixth in the third row to rise up and answer. I think your company may have invented a new visual special effects technology. Although the picture just now looks like real, it is actually a virtual scene created by you using this new special effect technology. The lady who lit up said her conjecture. Well, I have a lot of ideas. Although you didn't answer it correctly, your answer will sometimes lead us to a brand new direction. Applying this new technology to the art of film and television is indeed a good way to make money. So although you did not say the correct answer, I still decided to give you the family portrait of the new product released tonight. Does the audience have any other ideas? Even if the answer is not correct, if I think your idea is very good, maybe there is a chance to win a prize. While speaking, Mark scanned the audience seat under the stage. This time, ask a man to answer, Mr. Black Suit, the fifth in the first row. The audience was very enthusiastic, and Mark once again selected a lucky one. Oh, I'm so lucky tonight. I think the new product of tonight is likely to be a civil space compression technology, because you just used props that can be used for space transmission and cutting the iron sword for killing wild boars. These things all appeared out of thin air. I didn't see you carrying them before, so I infer that the new product may be a space prop similar to Doraemon's four-dimensional pocket. Ah, this gentleman's brains really make me ashamed. But unfortunately, your answer is 1,000 miles away. Now that the press conference is going on, I believe everyone is already very curious. What is the new product of our Mark Research Center, so I won't sell it anymore. I officially started to introduce our company's main product in the spring of 2011, Nerve Gear, the world's first civilian fully stealth machine, or virtual reality game host. After Mark revealed the true face of the new product in front of everyone, the entire conference site fell into a weird silence for a moment, and just after this silence lasted for nearly 5 seconds. Wow! There was a mixture of roar and applause, and the loud sound almost overturned the zenith of the entire Madison Square Garden. This is a fantasy technology that has appeared many times in various novels, animations and movies, but it has always been out of reach. It's no wonder that everyone on the scene will give such a warm applause. In fact, it is not just the live audience, but all the off-site audiences who are watching this conference have also sent out crazy joy roar to express their inner excitement. You can hear everyone's screams, everyone is looking forward to our new products. But the exciting moment has just begun. Please calm down and listen to me finish this introduction. Ha ha ha, everyone laughed at Mark's humorous self-discovery. Nerve Gear, the name of this season's new product, is a completely stealth machine for civilian use. Through it, you can log into the virtual game platform and choose your favorite game or pure landscape world to enter it. Through Nerve Gear, we can give ordinary people a completely different experience, and let the disabled regain a complete life. If people used to call virtual worlds just because of the extensive coverage of virtual networks, now a virtual world that really allows people to enter it has been born. Although Nerve Gear can be used in many fields, our main focus tonight is only in the game field. If organizations in other fields have cooperation intentions, they can come to our company for cooperation and negotiation. You have just seen part of the scene of Aincrad. Yes, Aincrad is the first VR MMORPG, virtual large-scale online role-playing game, Sword Art Online, that I launched for our company. The virtual world built. We will open this game map and related game platforms to major game developers for a fee. Game manufacturers or individuals who are interested in entering the field of virtual reality game development can also contact us. In addition, through the game development platform, developers can design and build their own virtual world. The subsequent game development and tourism development of a virtual world have considerable economic benefits. Now that the product display is over, I can now go to the site to communicate with you face to face. I think there must be a lot of people waiting for our on-site experience session. Quote. As soon as Mark's words fell, the screen changed again. But this time, there are no amazing and magnificent scenery, only 4 white walls and a small bed. There is a person lying on the cot, wearing a black semi-open helmet, on which a network cable and a wire are connected to the bedside panel. Soon this person slowly woke up and slowly sat up from the bed. When he took off the helmet on his head, the audience immediately recognized him as Mark. Mark beckoned to the camera, "Everyone, I have returned to the real world, wait a moment, see you on stage." Mark changed his clothes and came to the main stage. As smooth as the last press conference, 4 volunteers were invited to come to the stage to experience the magic of virtual reality technology. However, it is completely different from the last time. Although Mark did not communicate with a few people in advance, these people are carefully invited by the company's publicity team. Among them are blind people with visual impairments, patients with congenital heart disease, and soldiers who have lost their legs on the battlefield and retired. There is also a senior game player. Although there is no PY deal, as long as these candidates are sincere and intuitive on the stage, express your own experience, then the effect of this promotion will be achieved. Unsurprisingly, when the visually impaired sees the light again in the virtual world, when the heart disease patient can perform strenuous exercise, when the retired soldier runs with his legs again, when a game player has an unprecedented gaming experience, see with the smiles and uncontrollable excitement on these people's faces, how many of the audience members can keep their wallets. At the end of the conference, I believe everyone is most concerned about the price of Nerve Gear and Sword Art Online. Now I will announce to you that the retail price of Nerve Gear basic version is $39,999 United States dollars, professional version is priced at $46,666 United States dollars, customized the version is priced at $88,888 United States dollars and supports installment payment. The price of the game, Sword Art Online, is only $1,999 United States dollars, and you can play it forever. The preferential prices that seem to be inconsistent with Nerve Gear's black technology status are actually formulated after precise analysis and discussion by the senior executives of the entire company. With the help of Stark Industries' automated production capabilities, the cost of each piece of Nerve Gear equipment can be suppressed at around $800 United States dollars. Even if the transportation and labor costs are added, the cost will not exceed $1,000 United States dollars. In other words, the pricing announced by Mark, which appears to consumers to be very conscientious, is actually not ill-intentioned, but rather black-hearted. This change of hands can make a 40 times profitable business, except for those illegal and criminal channels and industries monopolized by the state. Basically no one can achieve it. Moreover, the product pricing of the 3 price ranges, each price just falls on the bottom line of the corresponding consumer group, whether you are a median income group, middle class or affluent class. Mark's pricing is only slightly beyond their bottom line. With the attractiveness of virtual reality technology coupled with the strategy of payment in installments, it can be said that as long as you move your mind, it is impossible to resist not sending small money to Mark. On the second day after the press conference, news with the keywords of Mark Research Center and virtual reality technology appeared on major news headlines and hot searches on websites. On the official website, the deposit for this nerve gear was already as high as $4,000. The huge amount of 100 million United States dollars, it can be said that people all over the world are rushing to buy nerve gear in the first time, whether it is for experience, show off or reselling. Various gods have also appeared on the stage. The cooperation and orders from various well-known colleges and universities, medical institutions, military, government and even foreign countries are rushing to send the money in their pockets to Mark. However, Mark left all these matters to the employees of the Ministry of Commerce and did not personally show up. On the 5th day after the press conference, after working overtime to prepare and adjust the goods, the brand new nerve gear products have been packaged and sent to the warehouses of various stores. On the official website of the Mark Research Center, there is also a big countdown display. The above time tells everyone who is looking forward to it. There is still 1 hour left before the online and offline global unified sale. When this countdown display began to count down like a time bomb, the entire network seemed to have been detonated. Hundreds of millions of network traffic from all over the world began to flood into the Mark Research Center servers, making it more than selling privately. The health assistant is almost unable to support the server that has been expanded more than 10 times, and has been on the verge of collapse. Fortunately, Mark shot in time, through load balancing and speed difference control, to ensure the normal operation of the website. When the last second countdown was cleared, and offline stores with different time zones in different regions around the world opened their doors at the same time, the same scene happened in every store of the Mark Research Center. A large number of customers are rushing into the cash register, and they must pay first if they don't even get the goods, so that they can be the first to get a place to buy. The first batch of 10 million machines stocked in the world were sold out in less than 10 minutes between online and offline, so that in order to catch up with the speed of sales, the production manager of Mark Company urgently contacted Stark Industries Inc. 5 modified production lines have enabled Nerve Gear's daily production capacity to reach 15 million units. But that's it. In the next few days, enthusiastic customers still sold out in less than 10 minutes of business, and the online line has been queued to Nantianmen, and the number of bookings rose but did not decline. Many black-hearted buyers and underground black markets have already fetched the brand new unopened nerve gear to a sky-high price of more than 100,000 United States dollars, and the business is still booming, and the supply is in short supply. In order to alleviate the current hot supply and demand tensions and avoid being scalped by the scalpers, Mark quickly asked the public relations team to introduce purchase restrictions. Priority purchase for minors and women, priority purchase for disabled persons and military personnel, but each person is limited to one. Identity registration is required when purchasing. After registration, the system will automatically bind nerve gear with the registrant's information, and the bound nerve gear no one other than me can log in and use it. After the implementation of this measure, although the speed of sales is still very fast, it has effectively suppressed the behavior of the scalpers to buy and sell to earn the difference. The hot business lasted for half a month before it gradually calmed down. But this is only relative to the situation at the beginning. If you compare prices with other stores, Mark's stores are still crowded, and sales are still not available, and they are rising step by step. But when everything went smoothly, the wind direction in society and the internet suddenly changed. Suddenly overnight, many children's parents made comments on social networking sites that belittle Nerve Gear's virtual reality technology. Generally speaking, it's because of Nerve Gear that children who are addicted to virtual games have irregular eating and sleeping problems. Wait for the signs that are not good for health. Wong Nuos, and the grades have declined. The children who originally liked sports no longer exercise, their physical fitness is reduced, etc. In addition, some so-called experts jumped out and said that Nerve Gear is a new spirit-independent product dressed in a high-tech coat, electronic pressing tablets. To avoid harmony, please understand the government should come forward to restrict its sales and related games. Hairstyles, and minors are prohibited from buying. Seeing these unfavorable news and the emergence of negative fishing vessels, the general manager of Mark immediately called all the company's senior executives to a meeting and informed Mark of the development of the matter. Have you found out who used the hands and feet behind your back? Although Mark's surface is calm, he is already burning with anger in his heart. Dare to touch Lao Su's little money, Lao Su will never end with you. I'm very sorry, boss. It happened so suddenly, we haven't had time to investigate, but according to my analysis, this matter must be inseparable from the old game console companies. The general manager lowered his head in shame. Well, you don't need to take it to heart. Even if they did not instigate this matter, they must be behind them. After all, our success this time has touched many people's cakes. They want to use some tricks. Also normal. But I dare to put my hand into my pocket to get money. I think they are the old birthday stars who hang themselves, and they feel too long to live. Dubai. Quote. Filled circle, Lord, man, I am here. Collect all the lists and evidence of these people who posted false statements for me in case of emergency. In addition, through the IP of these people to trace the source, I want to know who is behind the scenes. Do these fishing vessels have any impact on our business and sales? Quote. The general manager replied, the impact is still there, but it is not very big. Because we have a large part of cooperation projects with other companies or departments in addition to the retail business, these people will not be blinded by rumors, so the revenue is relatively stable. And even though rumors on the internet are everywhere, the attractiveness of Nerve Gear is unstoppable, and consumers still have a strong willingness to buy. However, because minors are an important part of our sales targets, and their financial expenditures are mainly controlled by their parents, the proportion of minors' sales today has dropped significantly, which indirectly affects our sales speed, and even none of the Nerve Gears on shelves today in stores in countries and regions have been sold out, and the warehouse needs to be taken back. Quote. Mark nodded silently after listening. This situation is not much different from what he expected. He is very confident in Nerve Gear and Sword Art Online. It's like many diners know that puffer fish is poisonous, and every tasting is required. Taking a fatal risk, but still unable to resist its deliciousness. Virtual reality has such an appeal, not to mention that Nerve Gear and Sword Art Online are not deadly poisons at all under Mark's careful design. Before the product was launched, Mark, who had past life experience, had already considered the attitudes of children's parents towards virtual reality games. This is the same as when TV has just appeared in people's lives. Being criticized will make people corrupt and degenerate, then in games. After the advent of the console, game consoles have replaced the TV in infamy, and are called electronic independent products. Then when the internet, computers, mobile phones, and tablets, a new technology emerges, it will always be accompanied by slander and questioning. But there is a saying that is good, technology is not good or bad, the key is to see how people use it. In order to introduce people to use and healthy games correctly, Mark has added a real-time body monitoring device to Nerve Gear. Once the user's physical condition does not meet the usage standards, Nerve Gear will not be able to log in. During use, if physical indicators drop to a certain level or the game duration reaches a certain period of time, players in virtual reality will also be reminded that they need to log out of the game to replenish energy and rest properly. Even in an emergency, Nerve Gear can let you the user is forced to log out, and has an emergency alarm function, which can send help messages to nearby hospitals. Although the addition of such a configuration has increased the cost of Nerve Gear by tens of USD, Mark still adheres to his own principles and conscience, ordering that every factory machine must be equipped with a real-time body monitoring device, and to ensure that it cannot pass demolition by nonviolent means. Therefore, the rumors about the decline in performance, irregular diet, sluggishness, etc. on the internet at the moment can be said to be completely dirty water behavior by competitors, in order to hit the sales of Mark's new products. Strive for longer preparation time for your company's business decisions. Do you have any strategies to deal with this sudden situation? After returning from thinking, Mark asked the key question. I have already had an emergency meeting with the senior staff to discuss it. The most important thing at the moment is to state our own position, lay out factual evidence, and carry out positive publicity. In addition, the first phase of the Nirvana charity project we cooperated with the International Organization for Disabled Persons, it has been successfully concluded. I think this will be a good weapon for us to respond to the counterattack. It is also a good opportunity to use the fishing reel for publicity. The positive effects of this public welfare activity can not only reverse the current negative fishing reels, but also go further to promote our virtual reality technology. 0 Find flowers 0. Yes, just follow the strategy you discussed. But there is one more point. Let the developers of the game department add a unified system prompt to the login scene of Nerve Gear to remind players to play moderately and not to be affected by indulging in the virtual world. Life in the real world. Good boss, let's act now. At the end of the meeting, the senior executives of the company returned to their respective positions and began to actively respond to the fishing vessel crisis. In the meeting room, Mark, who was just about to get up and return to the laboratory, heard a loud voice in his ears. Master, the man behind this fishing reef attack has been found out. They are Ren Hell, Microhard and Suni. Since the release of Nerve Gear, their 3 game console products have been Hell's, Switch, Microhard, Xbox One, and the sales of Sony's PlayStation 4 inches have all fallen sharply, and the total market share of the 3 companies has fallen below 30%, and both revenue and stock prices have been impacted and plummeted. Therefore, the participants secretly communicated and cooperated to launch this fishing boat attack on the new product Nerve Gear of the Mark Research Center. Quote, I have already announced that I will open the virtual game development platform to all game developers for a fee. These guys are not thinking about adapting to the trend and transforming as soon as possible, developing new virtual reality games, and dividing up this great blue ocean. I play yin. Then don't blame me for my small belly. Dubai helped me blacklist the Chinese and French personnel involved in this incident. These people should never be selected into our company's talent pool. In addition, these 3 companies have also included me in the company's cooperation prohibition list, and from today onwards, Mark's Scientific Research Center is prohibited from having any business dealings with them. In addition, they secretly hacked into their company's network to see if there was any hidden material left, and collected it for me. If I want to cut my money, I want them to have nowhere to go. Quote, understand, Master. The executives of Mark Company acted very efficiently and swiftly. Within an hour after the meeting, they had already introduced and perfected detailed response measures, and organized the employees of various departments to cooperate closely and cooperate with each other, and soon responded to the sudden emergence negative fishing vessels made a fierce counterattack. The employees of the game department began to add login prompts for Nerve Gear and Sword Art Online, and added prompts for excessively long gaming sessions in accordance with Mark's requirements. The employees of the business department began to post rumors defying dynamics on the company's official website and major social media, and displayed a series of anti-addiction functions in Nerve Gear to the public. And what I definitely can't forget is to bring Ren Hell, Microhard and Lock Neil out to be beaten, clearly showing 690. Compared to these game consoles that do not have anti-addiction function, Nerve Gear can be said to be the conscience of heaven and earth. The employees of the marketing department are even more aggressive, sorting and categorizing the image data left by the previous Nirvana charity project, and editing it into a mini documentary, contacting all TV and online media for negotiations. In the end, after reaching some PY transactions for the exchange of benefits, the marketing department negotiated 3 mainstream TV stations and 5 online media, and agreed to broadcast this mini documentary during prime time. The timely response and meticulous countermeasures from the Mark Research Center quickly turned things around. In particular, the response of the micro-documentary of the Nirvana charity program was very strong. People not only started to praise the charity behavior and conscience products of the Mark Research Center, but also had a more comprehensive and clear understanding of the functions and limitations of Nerve Gear. The negative impact brought about by negative fishing vessels is broken. After this incident, Nerve Gear's sales continued to increase, and the heat brought by the incident surpassed the sales on the first day of sales, creating an amazing sales miracle. The Mark Research Center took advantage of this heat and launched the second virtual reality game, Attack on Giant. Due to its excellent worldview structure and thrilling game plot design, the number of sales on the first day of release it broke the highest sales record of Sword Art Online. When other game makers just got the development platform, and the developers started to get familiar with the usage method, Mark has launched 2 hot games in succession. If you succeed, you love the sales share of the entire game market. Envy. On the other hand, the life of Hell, Way Hard, and Shuni is not easy. In the past few days, there have been mysterious figures who have constantly hammered the black material of the executives of these 3 companies, or internal scandals and gray operations involving legal issues. These revelations can be described as shocking, dazzling the people who eat melons. Compared with the news of the multiplayer movement of Teacher Luo, it is not different, and even the Mark Research Center and the Nirvana Public Welfare Project, which is the top search list, are compared, has become one of the indispensable pastimes for people after a meal. As negative news broke out continuously, and they were all verified one by one, several senior executives of these three companies were invited to drink tea by relevant departments one after another, which affected the normal operation of the company. On the Wall Street stock market, the share prices of the three companies fell off a cliff, and the market opened every day with a lower limit, and the market value dropped by an order of magnitude. Seeing the tragic situation of these three companies, Mark naturally hid in the laboratory and clapped his hands, daring to make money and see if I would kill you. Mark didn't expect that none of the business strategies he thought of was actually used. He just made Dubai keep releasing black materials about the three companies, and they had already been half dead and completely lost their previous cards. Master, there are guests visiting. The general manager asked me to invite you to the reception room. Just when Mark was still proud of the collapse of the three companies, Dubai's sudden notice interrupted his emotions. Is there a guest? I haven't heard that there is an appointment today. Do you know who it is? Mark asked Zero. It's a middle-aged Chinese woman named Melinda May. According to the general manager's explanation, she is an assistant specially appointed for you. Assistant? Don't I already have a secretary? Why do I need to find another assistant? I don't think I need to help with company affairs or experimental research. Mark frowned, feeling the general manager's move. It's a bit redundant, and I haven't got my consent at all. But why does the name Melinda May sound familiar? May, that's right, the Chinese female agent in the American drama, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. Master, she is not an assistant, but a living assistant. The general manager is worried that you forgot to eat during the experiment, and specially hired a living assistant to take care of your diet and daily life. Hearing Dubai's explanation, Mark nodded absent-mindedly. He was already thinking about the purpose of Melinda May's approach to him, because it is impossible for the general manager to find any life assistant for him without authorization. You know that there are many valuable secrets hidden in Mark's private laboratory. How can it be possible for a person to enter at will in the name of taking care of his own daily life? And even though the general manager doesn't know that he owns an artifact such as the nutrition dormancy cabin, he has a big white extension around him who is always aware of its physical condition, which is much more reliable than a life assistant. Then the general manager's action of unknown significance is either being coerced or brainwashed. As for the rebellion, Mark doesn't believe it. After all, Mark is installing a hostile detection system in the office building after imitating the Cibula system in Psycho Measurer. If the general manager really betrayed him, then the alarm in the laboratory would have sounded. Since you brought it to the door by yourself, I will meet you well and see what kind of medicine S.H.I.E.L.D. sent you to buy in the gourd. When he came to the reception room, Mark pretended to be ignorant and asked, "What's the matter?" I heard Dubai said that you were looking for a life assistant for me. Why don't you discuss it with me in advance? I saw that the general manager seemed to remember suddenly, with a look of enlightenment on his face, and muttered, "Yes, I should ask the boss for your instructions. How did I forget? Why did I forget?" Looking at the confused look of the other party, Mark guessed that he should not have been intimidated by S.H.I.E.L.D. people, but by some black technology hypnotic ability, and he directly planted a message in his mind. The idea of finding a life assistant, this made Yazzie look confused and not very clever. Knowing the truth, Mark didn't blame him in his heart. After all, normal people would have thought that they would be targeted by government agents and would be used unconsciously. It seems that the employees of these companies will have to be equipped with some self-defense and self-protection equipment in the future. Otherwise, the agent organization will continue to do so. Sooner or later, my company will be taken over by another organization like S.H.I.E.L.D. Mark secretly thought. Think. At this time, the general manager who was stuck in the entanglement seemed to be affected by the idea of implantation in his mind, and suddenly recovered, and said to Mark, "I can't remember it, forget it. Boss, the person who applied for your life assistant has already arrived, so you can interview first. Maybe it will suit you." Mark showed a look of embarrassment on the surface, and he had already made up his mind to do the trick. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. sent someone to monitor him, it must be purposeful, and when appointing the candidate, he chose Melinda May, an agent with Chinese descent. Obviously, he has done a detailed investigation and analysis of Mark and knows Mark's the deceased mother is of Chinese descent, so it is hoped that Agent May, who also has Chinese ancestry, can leave Mark with a preconceived impression as a compatriot. Well, in that case, I'll have an interview. This sister will introduce herself first. Mark said to Melinda. My name is Melinda May. I was born in China, Macau. Both my parents are from China. Melinda first stated that he had Chinese ancestry and wanted to win Mark's favor. It's a pity that Mark, who knew the other party had a bad heart a long time ago, was not fooled, and still played the role of an interviewer with a serious expression. Seeing that her first move didn't work, Melinda was slightly disappointed, but she didn't show it on her face, but continued her self-introduction calmly. I have the experience of graduating from the New Oriental Chef School, and have passed various housekeeping skill level exams. In addition, my psychological assessment test shows that my mental health is very high. I am an optimistic and good at taking care of the feelings of others, so I think I am very suitable and capable of being your life assistant at the same time. After listening to Melinda's self-introduction, Mark is also a little admired, because although the psychological test can be faked by the means of S.H.I.E.L.D., but the professional skills of cooking and housekeeping, Melinda as a professional agent must have truly mastered. In Mark's heart, I can't help but complain, you agents are so good, and you are capable of learning and learning ability, doing something that can't contribute to society, you have to do such a dangerous job as an agent. It sounds very capable, but do you have any commendable work experience or professional resume? After all, you are working in a high-tech company. Even a life assistant needs some branding. Mark made a pair of embarrassment. In Melinda's appearance, she made her own troubles. But in fact, Mark is also collecting the other party's information in this way. Whether Melinda's words really happened or to cope with prefabrication, he can gather more evidence that helps Mark to understand S.H.I.E.L.D.'s true purpose. While Melinda showed off his glorious past experience, Mark also followed the order to verify and analyze these times via the internet. Moreover, Mark suddenly heard something that he had overlooked before. Since S.H.I.E.L.D. has sent Melinda May to himself, does it mean that Tony's side, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff also started to act? If this is the case, then the scope for which Melinda was sent over will be greatly reduced. First of all, based on the memories of his previous life, Mark can be sure that the other party is not Hydra's undercover agent. This is the premise that Mark decides to do the trick. Secondly, if S.H.I.E.L.D. sent two generals, Natasha Romanoff and Melinda, at the same time, just to get close to their Stark father and son, then its true purpose is either to fancy the scientific research capabilities of the two, or to fancy the two masters. What kind of black technology, or Nick Fury put them on the waiting list of the Avengers, this time someone is sent to observe and evaluate. Maybe all three of them are the true purpose of S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, it is a good thing to point out the triple effect of a salary. If it were Mark, he would definitely be so crazy. But with Nick Fury's method, it is definitely not possible to do this. After all, if you really steal Mark's technical achievements, it is tantamount to having an affair with Mark. So this has become a losing trade of giving up Mark, a promising young talent with endless creativity, and choosing to steal the technical achievements of the other party. Okay, your resume is very good. Let's join the company temporarily. As long as you can pass the 15-day probation period, I will give you a positive. But I have to wake you up. My laboratory can only be entered with my password authentication, so usually you only need to make a meal, and then Roar tells Dubai to tell me to go out for dinner, and the laboratory will be cleaned. You don't need to do the work. Remember, only my password can enter my laboratory, do you know? Quote. Understood. I will pay attention to this point and make sure to complete the tasks within my job responsibilities. Mark repeats it deliberately and artificially. He is trying to test Melinda. If the other party really wants to steal her own technical information, she will definitely find ways to get the password of Mark's lab. Then, 24 hours a day, the laboratory monitored by Dubai will be able to seize and obtain her personal stolen goods, and Mark will know what S.H.I.E.L.D's goal is. So what would you do, Miss Melinda, or Iron Cavalry? Chapter 71. It turns out that Nick Fury is really not a short-sighted person. For this month, Melinda has not tried to sneak into Mark's laboratory secretly, but did her best to complete the nutritious diet provided to Mark every day, and call him out for dinner on time, as if she was really a life assistant and not the agent lurking around Mark. Mark has seen it since this time. Nick Fury arranged for Melinda to approach him in order to observe and evaluate his performance and ability, in order to judge whether he is suitable for joining his Avengers plan. However, although S.H.I.E.L.D. did not approach him with any bad intentions, Mark still felt very upset. "Have you ever asked Nick Fury if I would like to join you in any Avengers plan?" So he sent someone over to review and score himself, making it as if he was beckoning and he was going to post it to join it. "The plan is the same, I am not rare." On the other hand, Tony also received the same treatment as Mark, but compared to Mark's hardworking and virtuous writer Melinda May, the hot and Black Widow Natasha Romanoff was sent to Tony's side. Romanoff, if he will definitely be investigated by S.H.I.E.L.D.'s agent, Mark still prefers to be Natasha Romanoff. However, after drinking the last bite of the Buddha jumped over the wall prepared by Melinda in the stew pot, Mark still feels a little comforted. At least his appetite has been satisfied. Since his rebirth, he has not known how long he has not eaten Chinese. Good food, Melinda is still good after thinking about it. Wiping his mouth clean, Mark went downstairs to the company and sat on the horizontal cannon in the form of a sports car. Today, the Stark Group will hold the Stark Expo in Flushing, New York, to showcase the pioneering and development of the Stark Group over the past few decades. Mark received Tony's invitation, so he went to join him after dinner. Hang Pow, go to Tony's place, go at full speed. Tonight, Mark will take a helicopter with Tony to the destination in New York. At that time, he will use the brand new equipment that has been prepared, and he will appear on the main stage under the gaze of thousands of spectators, which will kick off the opening of the Stark Expo, the first climax. As night fell, the time had come to 7 o'clock in the evening. At this time, the helicopter carrying Tony and Mark had arrived over New York, flying around Flushing. "How about it, are you ready?" Tony, wearing a brand new Mark IV battle suit, stood beside Mark and asked. In order to make a wonderful appearance at the expo tonight, Tony specially repolished and waxed Mark IV. It was a painstaking effort to attract the attention of the audience. Prepared for a long time, in order to make the opening ceremony of this expo a good start, I deliberately remodeled my proud work to make sure it will surprise you. Mark said confidently, patting his chest. Tonight, Mark is wearing a bright silver cycling jersey, wearing a certain fire red helmet, and a pair of windshields on the bridge of his nose, looking like a cyclist. Tony is also very curious about Mark's outfit. Since Tony handed the invitation letter to Mark, the other party nag has been vowing to make a big surprise for himself. Unfortunately, until now, Tony has not been able to see the invention that Mark will use to appear on the stage. Okay, it's almost time, I should be ready to debut. Mark looked at the smartwatch on his wrist. It was 19:10 and he was ready to make his debut. Mark opened the suitcase that he had brought from the laboratory to the plane, and saw that there were a few iron pipes and Big Brother lean discs inside, which made Tony even more confused. What are these things? With these things, can Mark land safely into the venue from this 10,000-meter altitude? I saw Mark take out the parts that seemed so simple that they couldn't be simpler. Several iron pipes are easily connected by bayonet to form a bicycle frame, and there are 2 discs left. Mark just throws away at the place where the wheels belong to the frame. The 2 discs are like an invisible thread. It was tied to the frame, floating there out of thin air. This is a superconducting magnetic levitation bicycle based on the superconducting magnetic levitation technology in Big Marine Corps, using graphene superconducting materials and graphene fiber frame to build a superconducting magnetic levitation bicycle. Under full pedaling, its speed can reach an hour 300 kilometers. Not enough. When Mark made this invention and showed it to Tony, he left a meaningless evaluation, which made Mark feel unwilling. To this day, at the Stark Expo, Mark once again brought out his dusty invention for many years, in order to be able to show his shame, and to show the limelight in front of Tony. It would definitely be even better if Tony can grab all the limelight. If my company has a hot item, you can book it. Since you want to be popular, it is definitely not enough to just maintain the original design. After all, no matter how fast a bicycle can be stepped on, it will not give people a feeling of pulling the wind. And considering that this appearance needs to fall from the sky, in order to achieve this requirement, Mark innovatively modified the 2 wheels and added a very simple function that can make the entire product qualitatively change. After the superconducting magnetic levitation bicycle was assembled, Mark, who was not carrying any protective devices and parachutes, stepped onto the seat. When the door of the plane was opened, he pedaled, and the whole person and the car disappeared in the cabin. Holy shit! Tony was shocked when he saw this scene, and he was about to start the battle suit to rescue Mark. He saw the scene that made him startled roar again, "Oh my god!" After Mark left the cabin on a superconducting magnetic levitation bicycle, he lost all the help of the flight tool. He started to work by gravity in a free-fall manner very scientifically, converting the potential energy of gravity into kinetic energy. However, this exercise process that we have learned from junior high school physics did not last long. Mark sat firmly on the bicycle seat, let go of the driving handle with his right hand, and tapped the smartwatch on his left wrist. Soon the unremarkable bicycle roulette glowed with a bluish light like an arc reaction furnace, and the light dimmed with time, while the speed of the wheels became more and more rapid. After the high-speed rotating roulette reaches a critical value, a conical cloud is formed around the roulette that can only be seen on a supersonic aircraft. Because the 693 fighters will gradually catch up with their own sound waves when their speed is approaching the speed of sound, and the surrounding air will be affected by the superposition of sound waves and will become high pressure. Therefore, after the front end of the fighter jet broke through the sound barrier, the huge pressure accumulated in front of the fuselage disappeared immediately, and the sudden pressure drop caused by the instantaneous pressure caused the condensation temperature of the water vapor in the air to drop instantaneously. As a result, the water vapor will immediately condense into small water droplets, which looks like a cloud to the naked eye, so the overall shape looks like a conical cloud that spreads evenly around the axis with the fighter plane as the center. The principle of Mark's bicycle is the same. The new technology he added to the roulette is the thermal phase transfer technology. The thermal phase transfer device negatively transfers the heat of the graphene superconductor in the roulette, which can make the originally unstable normal temperature. Superconductivity becomes a more stable low-temperature superconductor. It is the roulette wheel that can break the speed limit of 300 km per hour and break the sound barrier. After breaking through the sound barrier, a cone-shaped cloud is formed and absorbed by the collection device on the frame. After being positively transferred by the thermal phase transfer device, it is heated into high-pressure steam with a temperature of more than 1000 degrees Celsius. The high-pressure steam is ejected at high speed through the pressure relief valve, so that the bicycle obtains a balance against gravity and can ride in the air stably. When it continued to descend until it was about to approach the main stage, Mark reversed the effect of the thermal phase transfer device, causing the sprayed cryogenic liquid to leave a runway entirely composed of ice crystals in midair and between the stage. The bike ran down to the slide, and finally Mark finished with a handsome gesture of a sudden brake and flick, took off his helmet and goggles, and greeted the tens of thousands of spectators at the scene. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome coming to the grand opening ceremony of the Stark Expo tonight. I am the opening guest Mark Stark." Boo! Following Mark's self-introduction, the audience in the audience also made an enthusiastic roar. After all, in the past 6 months, Mark can be said to be the most popular figure in the world except for the self-revealed Iron Man Tony Stark. The inventions and products made by him will surely attract a large number of loyal customers and individual fans to buy. At the same time, these products are selling well, and they have also created a good reputation for Mark. After all, whether it is a personal health assistant or virtual reality technology, there are broad prospects for medical applications. Therefore, the Mark Research Center has also taken the lead in cooperating with several world-renowned medical institutions to initiate many medical public welfare projects, which can be described as fame and fortune. What's more interesting to the people who eat melons is that Stark is a trio of heroes. I am a hero and a hero. Not only the grandparents and grandchildren Sanbei have made great contributions in business and academia, but both Tony and Mark can be regarded as being better than Blue. But tonight's protagonist was not Mark. After raising his hand to signal the audience not to get too excited, Mark began to pave the way for Tony's appearance. "Although I will appear first today, there is another person who came with me. He is the person you are most looking forward to tonight and the most shining protagonist tonight, my dad, Tony Stark. If you don't want to miss his appearance, if you have any details, please look up and he will also be on the stage in the same way he will fall from the sky." The audience who heard Mark's words raised their heads and looked at the sky shrouded in night. I saw a flame dragging a long tail flame quickly approaching them, bang. Before everyone in the audience could react, the flame had already fallen on the stage. Tony, who was supported by his left hand and knelt on one knee, slowly stood up, opened his arms, and the whole stage at the same time the fireworks burst out, and the lights rendered the entire stage magnificent. The audience, whose emotions were aroused by this shocking stage effect, shouted out their shouts hoarsely, embellishing Tony's debut with the last piece of decoration. Amidst the roar of the audience, several robotic arms rose on the stage to help Tony remove the Mark No. 4 armor on his body. Tony appeared in front of the audience dressed in a suit and leather shoes. After he changed his clothes, Mark also appeared on the stage again and came to Tony. The father and son bowed deeply 90 times and expressed their welcome to all the audience. Dear viewers, it's great to come back. Haha, do you want to see what I blow up? What do I blow up? I have done it. I did not say that the long-term peacekeeping in the world over the years is because of me. Also, I didn't say that no one in the world has regained a new life like me. I also didn't say that our government can take care of its leisure time because I have always maintained a peak state, and no one dares to challenge me alone. Tony pretended to be full of breath, which drew applause and joy from the audience. Roar continued, and some even shouted, "I love you, Iron Man." The Mark on the side rolls his eyes frequently. He has seen shameless people. I have never seen such shameless people. This military medal is at least half of mine, okay. Well, these two father and son are really the same shamelessly. These are not important, what is important is inheritance. As soon as the conversation turned, Tony finally brought his speech to the topic, what should we leave for future generations? This is a question I have been thinking about recently, so starting next year, since 1974 for the first time, the best talents from different countries and companies around the world will provide their resources, share their common vision, and create a better future. In short, what I want to say is welcome to the Stark Expo. Next, I invited a special guest from a place far away in the sky, and he will introduce the ins and outs of the expo to everyone, and I have my father Howard. Tony's voice fell, and the video of Howard Stark on the large splicing screen at the back of the stage also began to play. Science and technology can achieve everything, a better life, a healthier body. This video was recorded by Howard Stark during the Stark Expo with the theme of Future City in 1974. It explained many of his imaginations about the possibilities of future cities, which were limited by the technology conditions at the time and could not be realized. It is like an arc reactor. A prototype was designed as early as 1967. However, due to insufficient technical means and basic scientific support at that time, Howard Stark could barely build a prototype with huge amounts of. No matter in terms of size, cost, or energy utilization, it cannot be compared with today's arc reactor, and it is even far inferior to Tony's first-generation mini arc reactor in the cave. Many of Howard's ideas seem to be fantastic even today. This is why he spent huge amounts of manpower and material resources at the time to convene the Stark Expo, in order to bring together top talents from all over the world, collide ideas together, and be born. The spark of thinking solves these seemingly impossible problems. However, due to the factors of the times, even if the world's top wisdom is gathered, there are still ideas and creativity that Howard could not achieve in his time. The purpose of recording this video is to pass on his ideas. I believe that there will be more talents in the future. They live in the best age and will surely solve the problems that scientists in their age are eager to break through. At that time, he hopes that this person can share knowledge and exchange wisdom like him, and continue to inspire the next generation of explorers to embark on this wonderful and endless path. And in today's era of the information explosion, in this era when knowledge becomes within reach, this genius appeared, and two people were born at once. They are Howard Stark's son Tony Stark, and his grandson Mark Stark. Tony indeed, as he expected, relaunched the Stark Expo, which had been closed for a long time after Howard's death, to share his insights with people all over the world. While playing the video on the big screen, Tony and Mark came to the side of the stage. Taking advantage of the audience's attention being attracted by the content on the big screen, Tony quietly took out the portable toxicity test from his suit pocket instrument. "How's your condition recently?" Mark noticed his movements and leaned in to ask. Tony didn't speak, just put the tester in his hand in front of him, blood toxin content 11%. Seeing the numbers displayed on the screen, Mark was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the palladium content in Tony's blood would reach a double-digit percentage. What's the matter? Didn't you enter the nutritional dormancy cabin on time for body repair? Tony shook his head. No, I haven't been in the nutrient dormancy cabin for a month for body repair. Because I know that as long as there is a dormant cabin as a back path, I will never be able to devote all my attention to new elements. In the development of, how long will it take me to get rid of the dependence on the dormant cabin? Over the past few months, since JARVIS has completed the compatibility test of all elements with the arc reactor, and regretfully told Tony that there is no matching item in the existing elements, Tony has started the research of replacing palladium with new synthesis elements. Unfortunately, after trying for more than a month, Tony is still clueless and progress is slow. So in order to force himself, Tony cut off his back and stopped using the dormant cabin for body repair a month ago, hoping to use this method to force all his potential out at the moment of life and death. What about progress? At the expense of health, what results have been achieved? Mark asked coldly. He felt that Tony didn't cherish his body so much that he took risks in this way. No, Tony replied with some guilty conscience. At first I tried to try in the virtual laboratory, but after a long time, the feeling of emptiness and silence made my scalp numb, so I went back to the lab in the garage and continued to try. But you also know that this kind of thing is a lot of luck. Maybe I will succeed tomorrow. As he talked, Tony's tone became more guilty, and his voice gradually became quieter. Well, I will use the dormant cabin on time, and you must not tell Pepper. Tony confessed to Mark's threatening eyes. Seeing Tony's willingness to rein in the precipice, Mark also sighed helplessly, always feeling that he was more mature like a parent, and Tony was like the naughty bag that made the parent headache. But out of worry about Tony's use of this extreme method, in order to avoid him being stupid, Mark decided to give him some tips. If you don't have a clue yourself, it's better to go back and take a good look at the information and notes left by Grandpa. When I was young, my grandpa gave birth to many good ideas. Wasn't the arc reactor that put you in danger at the beginning of your chest was the original idea proposed by your grandfather? Maybe the things he wants to teach you and pass on to you are hidden in his past notes, waiting for you to discover. Quote. Tony thought but didn't reply, as if he was caught in some memories. 3. It's chaotic outside, be careful. Open the door and let's go. At the end of the opening ceremony, Tony and Mark struggled away from the crowd under the protection of Harpy. From time to time, Tony and Mark also took over posters and photos handed over from the crowd to help enthusiastic fans sign souvenirs. Tony, my fans are quite calm. Harpy, not too bad. Tony, it's perfect. Happy, have you seen my performance tonight? How did I behave? Mark also turned his head to look at Happy and asked his opinion. Awesome, Mark. To be honest, if it weren't for Tony to take the advantage in the back, you must be the focus of the audience tonight. That bike is a cool 09. Can you also let me ride out and play another day? Speaking of this, Harpy waved his arms in front of his chest with excitement. He really liked the superconducting maglev bike when Mark made his debut tonight. Mark, haha, no problem. By the way, has the car I sent by air from the laboratory arrived? Definitely, look at that. Harpy stretched out his hand and pointed forward, and saw a flaming red sports car parked in front. The car was decorated with golden flames and the tail was slightly tilted ducktail design. The sports car is visually more leaning and elegant and flexible. This car is the shape-shifting King Kong sports car that Tony previously ordered from Mark, but it is different from Mark's own horizontal gun, which refers to the design of the shape-shifting King Kong movie and the vehicle in reality. He designed this shape-shifting King Kong sports car for Tony. The shape and appearance, there is absolutely no second similar model in this world. Because when Mark made the design of this shape-shifting King Kong, he used the design of Thunderbolt, the speed-type sports car robot of the locomotive family in The Adventures of Lolo of the Variety Machine. Although the floating gun is still used in the weapon system, in order to restore the classic trick of Thunderbolt, Thunder Half Moon Slash, to the greatest extent, Mark has added the shape-shifting group synthesis to the floating gun as a long-handled machete. The unique design of the ARC's reactor is used to stimulate the energy field, which can be used as a blade to see. It also adds a whole set of cool action designs to the program of the Thunderbolt. Yes, this Marvel version of the Thunderbolt, and after using the Thunder and Half Moon Slash, not only can it be similar in appearance, but also in spirit, and its lethality is absolutely extraordinary. Tony was full of excitement when he saw this car, not to mention that he had been waiting for this car for several months, knowing that he was able to witness it for the first time today, just because of the difference on the body. His steel battle suit had exactly the same color scheme, which was enough for Tony to be happy for most of the day. However, when he turned his gaze, he found a graceful blonde girl standing beside the Thunderbolt at the moment, leaning on the body. Is she a gift with the car? How is it possible? Mark rolled his eyes silently. Be careful, I tell Sister Pepper. Ah, you're not a kid anymore. Can you stop complaining all the time? Tony has nothing to do with Mark's threats. Who makes him really like Pepper? Who are you? Tony asked directly at the blonde woman. Marshall. The blonde woman returned straightforwardly. Good meeting. This is Tony Stark. Tony stretched out his hand to shake her hand, and then just staggered, ready to get in the car. After all, with the eyeliner of Mark, Pepper by his side, he didn't dare to repeat the old tune. What's the matter with you coming over to find me? Tony opened the car door and got in the car. I'm coming to you. Then you can tell me why I came to see me, because we are going to leave. The blonde woman showed a professional smile, and then handed a list to Tony and said, I'll hand you the court summons. Mark, Tony called Mark. Mark knows how to accept the summons for him. I'm sorry, he will only pick up things that his acquaintances handed him. It's strange, isn't it? I heard that he didn't pick up anything from anyone before, but now he has improved. This is my quirk, Tony explained and interrupted Mark, apparently not wanting him to keep his mouth open. It doesn't matter, Tony Stark, you are ordered to attend the Parliamentary Military Committee at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Can I see your credentials? Tony confirmed cautiously. The blonde woman was also very open, and directly took out her martial ID and showed it to Tony for inspection. Do you still like it? Well, I will pass tomorrow. Thunderbolt, how far are we from Washington? Tony asked at Thunderbolt. We are 250 miles from Washington, Tony. The sound of the Thunderbolt came from the speaker in the car. This time Mark specially adjusted the sound of the Thunderbolt so that it was not as full of metal as the voice of a horizontal gun. Friction like grain. Then what are you waiting for? I want to show you the speed you are proud of. Boom. Tony's voice fell, and the Thunderbolt engine roared, leaving only a red afterimage left in the same place, dragging the taillights and disappearing into the night. Mr. Tony Stark, please listen to me attentively. In the courtroom of the Parliamentary Armed Services Committee, Senator Stern said loudly to Tony, who turned around and was flirting with Pepper in the gallery. Well, dear Congressman, Tony turned around and returned perfunctorily. Do you have a special weapon? Stern asked bluntly. In the auditorium, Mark, who was sitting on Pepper's left hand, quietly approached Pepper and said, Look, as I guessed, the military committee is jealous at Tony's steel battle suit, or they are afraid and don't want to this powerful force is placed in the hands of an individual, especially if this individual is a genius of a wealthy country. But don't worry, I reminded Tony early that he should be ready to deal with it. Quote. Yeah, Pepper nodded absent-mindedly, but focused on the hearing, obviously not really relieved. No, Tony denied directly in response to Stern's question. Stern asked, No, Tony. Yes, it depends on your definition of a weapon. What do you think is a weapon? Iron Man is a weapon. Stern pointed to the core of question. No, my invention is not a weapon. Tony insisted on his point of view. Then what do you think it is? Stern pressed hard at Tony. It is what it is, Mr. Senator. It is a high-tech prosthetic arm. This is the best adjective I can think of. As you know, Stark Industries has become the world's largest after cooperating with the Mark Research Center. Manufacturer of medical robots. Iron Man is nothing more than a medical product, but I personally think that its high price will affect its market performance, so I did not put this product on the market. Are you satisfied with my explanation, Mr. Member? Quote. Tony's sophistry caused a burst of laughter in the audience, and it was obvious that everyone was amused by Tony's shamelessness and ingenuity. Seeing Tony's unwillingness to cooperate, Senator Stern was not going to go in circles with Tony anymore. It is a weapon, and for the welfare of the people throughout the country, you should give it to us. Impossible, don't even think about it. Iron Man is me, I am Iron Man, I have become one with the battle suit. Surrendering Iron Man is surrendering myself, which is regarded as labor or selling prostitution. This is illegal, so the answer is I can't give it to you. Listen well, I'm not an expert. You are definitely not a sell prostitution expert, you are a senator. Tony interrupted Senator Stern directly and gagged. Tony's clever tongue made the audience laugh again, and this time the laughter became obviously louder. Senator Stern stretched out his hand to loosen his tie and vented his unhappiness. He decided to know his assassin. I am not a weapons expert. This time he added an accent, but let's ask, here comes a weapons expert, and I want to summon Justin Hammer, the main arms dealer of the Ministry of Defense. Mr. Senator, please be blunt. I only saw Mr. Hammer come in, but I did not see any weapons experts. If you talk about the knowledge and understanding of weapons, I think my son, who is about to be 15 years old, will have to. Mr. Hammer is more suitable for the title of weapons expert. Facing Tony's ridicule, Hammer did not have stage fright, picked up the microphone and stood up and said, yes, I'm not an expert in weapons, you are Tony, you are a genius. But Stark Industry, which started from the arms business, is in power. Tony Stark has now built a sharp sword, but insists that it is just a shield, and he wants us to trust him and hide behind him. I really hope this can make me feel safe, but it is a pity that we live in a world full of dangers, and Mr. Steck cannot foresee the dangers that happen every moment and appear by our side to protect us. This is me. Thank you all for your views. Quote. Stern. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. Next I will invite Lieutenant Colonel James Rhodes to attend the hearing. Rod. Tony looked back in surprise. He didn't expect Rod to appear at his hearing. The media reporters who were familiar with the relationship between Rod and Tony at the scene pressed the shutter frantically, hoping to capture the splendid scene of the brothers breaking up and make the headlines tomorrow. Stern. Lieutenant Colonel Rod, please read the fourth paragraph on page 57. You want me to read a specific paragraph? I thought I was here to do a complete report today. The specific content can't clearly express my thoughts. Rod raised an objection. Please read it out, Stern ordered strongly. Well, Rod thought reluctantly, Iron Man is not affiliated with any government unit, so it poses a threat to national security and interests. But my conclusion is that the benefits of Iron Man far outweigh the disadvantages. Enough. Next I want to broadcast your impact in the report. Because your words can't vividly restore its image. Stern interrupted Rod's opportunity to continue speaking, wanting a series of Iron Man threats. The evidence, pressing Tony step by step. Luoloha had no choice but to nod his head in agreement. In the auditorium, seeing things suddenly change and the situation is developing in a direction that is not conducive to Tony, Pepper clenched his hands tensely. Don't worry. This is Mark, who stretched out his hand on Pepper's shoulder to comfort him. I will help Daddy, they don't want to succeed. Bright, Mark lighted up the smartwatch screen on his wrist and whispered, when they are ready to play the video, let me put out the things I prepared. On the watch screen, Idabai made a winking expression, indicating that he had received the order. At this time, the originally prepared broadcast picture on the hearing TV changed. The picture taken by the military satellite became a big white electronic expression, and then an experiment with a huge steel robot appeared on the TV. Picture. In the video, the huge robot marked with Hammer Industries frequently runs out of control, causing heavy casualties to the experimenters on site, and there are more than one scenes like this. Turn it off, turn it off. Senator Stern yelled nervously, and Justin Hammer rushed forward to block the video with his body, and quickly cut off the power to the TV. Now the facts have proved that I can protect world peace by myself. I will be the most powerful deterrent. It will take you 20 years to cooperate with other jokers. Tony's words won all the audience in the gallery stand and applaud. Pepper also smiled happily and gave Mark beside him a thumbs up. But what Tony didn't know was that far away in the wilderness of Siberia, someone was watching his every move during the hearing through live TV, and his eyes were full of cold killing intent. California, Stark Estate. Welcome home, sir. Congratulations to the opening ceremony of the expo and the success of the Senate hearing, and let me say, your clothes on TV are refreshing. Have you already learned to use puns for humor, JARVIS? It seems that Mark's emotional perception core has made you evolve very well. Yes, sir, I also often share the evolutionary experience of artificial intelligence with Dubai. We have all improved a lot recently. Boom. In the kitchen, Xiaobin, who was preparing chlorophyll for Tony, accidentally overturned the blender again. Tony shook his head helplessly. Only Xiaobin remained as usual, clumsy and could not see growth at all. I should take you apart and make it into my wine rack. Jarvis, stop those stinky things from today, and I will start using the nutritional dormancy chamber to repair my body again. Mr. Wise decision. It seems Master Mark persuaded you. Yes, he did inherit my excellent genes, and expression ability is about to catch up with me. By the way, where are the materials left by my father Howard? If you need, you can go directly to your private server to view it. Every time Master Mark checks the information, he will scan and archive it and upload it to the server for the next use. When Master Mark was 7 years old, he had already organized all the information. And the entry is complete. This kid really loves to learn. It seems that I need to work hard, otherwise I will really be overtaken by the stinky kid. It sounds like Tony is unwilling to be surpassed by Mark's stubbornness, but even Tony himself did not notice. When talking about this topic, the corners of his mouth rose unconsciously. Jarvis, help me prepare the nutrient solution. I am going to use the nutrient dormancy chamber. It's useless for so long. I don't know how long this repair will take. According to estimates, it will take about an hour and a half. I think you have a sufficient amount of nutrient solution. Please feel free to use it. 1.5 hours later, Tony woke up from the nutrient dormancy cabin and used the portable toxicity tester again. The test results showed that the blood toxicity level was 0%. Bright, Tony shouted through the loudspeaker in the villa. Puff puff. Soon, Dabai came out of Mark's room, went down the stairs and came to Tony. Master, do you need Dabai's help? Help me perform a full-body physical examination. Okay. The scan begins, the scan ends. The results show that your body is very healthy. Except for the old chest problems, there is no better treatment solution yet, and the other examination results are all normal. As long as you insist on using the nutritional dormancy cabin for body repair and use your steel battle suit carefully, you can ensure that the spread of palladium poisoning is maintained in a controllable and safe range. Quote. Well, I think you mean I can go to the Monaco Racing Convention in a few days, right? That's right, old master, you are in great physical condition, and you can make long-distance travel. Dabai nodded and replied. Oh, what I want to do is not just take a plane to see with my eyes, I think there are some things that I have to experience myself. By the way, Jarvis, how is Pepper's performance recently? After I appointed her as the executive officer of Stark Industries, did she ask me for help because of any difficult problems? Quote. Miss Pepper's work is done perfectly, sir. Even more perfect than when you were an executor. I don't think he needs your help. Okay, Tony said disappointedly. By the way, let Natalie go to Monaco with us on the 24th. Monaco, Paris Hotel. The Grand Hotel de Paris, opened in 1864, is the best hotel in Monaco, with an amazing beauty. The Roman-style columns carefully carved with marble can be seen everywhere in the hotel, and the rich royal style permeates the entire space. The magnificent makes people unable to open their eyes. This time I came to Monaco to participate in the racing convention, and Tony and Mark will stay here. And just behind the hotel is the Monte Carlo circuit, the main venue of the Monaco Motorsports Convention. At this moment, in the hotel's banquet hall, a social cocktail party is being held, and the hall is full of famous celebrities or wealthy businessmen. When Tony and Mark, father and son, entered here, everyone's eyes were not consciously attracted by them. One is the most eye-catching man in the world, and the other is the most gold-sucking man in the world. At this moment, everyone present has the idea of wanting to establish a relationship with the two of them. However, among these people, one took the lead, and it was the one that Tony and Mark hated the most. Hey, Tony, is that you? In front of the bar, Hammer poked out a head and looked at Tony and Mark, who had just seated. Well, I didn't expect that. I ran into Justin Hammer, who I hated the most when I first came in. Tony grimaced at Pepper secretly. I agree with you. Mark also nodded in agreement. What's the matter with me, Mr. Hammer? I thought you should have a headache because of the cancellation of the order by the Ministry of Defense. Tony said strangely. No, Tony, that is a postponement, not a cancellation. I asked you to show our company's products at the Stark Expo. If you invent something that can be used, I will consider keeping the showroom for you. Okay, my new secretary Natalie is looking for me for something. It seems that I can't chat with you anymore. Tony saw Natalie beckoning to himself and escaped from Hammer's entanglement. At this moment, Justin Hammer turned his gaze to Mark, who was left by Tony. Watched by the cheeky Justin Hammer's gaze, Mark felt a chill of anger from the tail vertebrae to the sky, and his whole body got goosebumps. This kind of feeling is like being stared at by a pet lizard. Although you know that laundry won't hurt you, you will be disgusted by it. Don't look at me like that. Although pedophilia and are not illegal, if you dare to take any action, I will make you full of peach blossoms before sending you to jail every day. Mark didn't give Justin Hammer face at all, and directly threatened him. After all, it is impossible for me to have any business dealings with him, nor do I have any academic exchanges, so there is no need to take into account the face of the other party. You misunderstood, Mark. You also heard just now that the Department of Defense orders we received from Hammer Industries are now temporarily suspended. I heard that the new virtual reality host of the Mark Research Center is now in short supply every day. The productivity of Stark Industry 09 can no longer meet the market's consumption capacity, and Hammer Industry now has very sufficient productivity. Can you try hand over some orders to Hammer Industries for production, and we guarantee that all orders can be completed on time. Justin Hammer suggested to Mark flatly. Hearing Hammer's idea, Mark smiled disdainfully. Mr. Hammer, I think you made a mistake. The reason why our products are in short supply is not because of productivity issues, but because of it is necessary to do a good job of quality control, and everyone in the industry knows that Hammer Industries products are notoriously low-priced and poor quality. If it weren't for Stark Industries to shut down the weapons department and have no choice, I think it would be the Ministry of Defense. Nor will the order be delivered to you. After that, Mark turned around and left the banquet hall regardless of the expression on Justin Hammer's face. Today, Tony is going to participate in the race of the racing conference, so he has to go to the scene to cheer. But Mark still has some hesitation. Shouldn't he listen to Tony's hiding from Pepper? When he thought of the horror that Pepper knew he was Tony's accomplice afterwards, Mark decided to be a traitor again. I'm sorry, old man, father. Monte Carlo Circuit, the main venue of the Monaco Motorsports Convention. As Tony really appeared on the track wearing the clothes of a racer, the media and audience on the scene were all boiling. The famous genius, patriot, Iron Man, Tony Stark, had to be on the same stage with a group of professional racers today. Competitive, but this topic is enough to make headlines tomorrow. Mr. Stark, why did you think of going to the car race at the gate in person? A reporter asked Tony with the microphone in his hand raised. Owning a car is to race. This is a kind of healthy competition. Otherwise, why do you want a car? And I believe I will drive this car to win the championship today. Tony is confident. Road. On the other side, Harpy, hurry up. After receiving Mark's whistleblower, Pepper hurriedly added Harpy and Natalie, and got in the car and rushed to the starting point of the Monte Carlo circuit. It's already in the state of autopilot. Thunderbolt is already driving in the most accurate and safe way. It can't be any faster. Harpy said helplessly, and you see, the game has already started on the live broadcast on the mobile phone. We have no time to stop him. Blame you, Mark. How could you help him to do such a dangerous thing without telling us? Pepper lifted up Mark's ear complainingly. Hey, it hurts. It hurts for you too. I don't listen to anyone. It's difficult for me to do it. Mark explained aggrievedly, but Sister Pepper, don't worry, Tony will wear it today. The helmets worn on the racing suits are all made of graphene material, which guarantees full safety. Just when the other three were worrying about Tony's affairs, Natalie, who was also pulled into the car, or should be called Natasha Romanoff, she has now been given to buy the Thunderbolt sports car designed by Mark, shocked. It should be due to Thunderbolt's automatic driving process, every turn and brake are just right. On the crowded city road, the speed of the car is really increased to the extreme. Such precise control, even if she is so proficient in various driving skills, the old agent that has the skills of driving to escape can't do it. Until now, Natasha Romanoff really understands why his director put such an underage kid on the list of the Avengers project. The wisdom in his little head alone is enough. It's comparable to thousands of troops. Ah! Suddenly, Harpy, who had been watching Tony's game live on his mobile phone, screamed roar. Hearing Harpy's voice, Pepper looked at him and asked, "What's wrong, Harpy?" Happy handed the phone to her. "Look at." In the live broadcast, a man in the uniform of the track staff suddenly rushed onto the track, and beside him was a racing car running by the speeding Mercedes and roar. This man didn't care about the possible dangers around him. When he took off his shirt like a hooligan, and waved two lashes shining with electric lights to cut off an oncoming car with one blow, everyone understood. This man was not a shivering lamb, but a wolf about to show its fangs. "Thunderbolt, no matter what, we just broke into the track, and it was too late to run across the road." Pepper saw this scene even more urgent, for fear that Tony would become the next victim, and immediately let Thunderbolt break through the blockade. Rushed into the track. Boom! The Thunderbolt fire motor roared and broke straight through the barriers that no one held and entered the track. Without the interference and obstacles of various vehicles on the main road, the Thunderbolt was finally able to perform at the speed it is most proud of. The red body and the golden ornamentation really resemble a fiery red lightning at high speeds, stirring up a thunderbolt on the road. Just in front, that man is in front. The Thunderbolt came retrograde, but in an instant it would bring several people to the place where the mysterious man was making waves. Isn't that Tony's car? Natasha Romanoff was the first to see the blue car that had completed the turn and entered the straight ahead. The obvious Stark logo on the body made her recognize that this was Tony's car. "Get out of the car!" Mark yelled to everyone. "Thunderbolt, go and save your master. Don't worry, this is your duty." After saying this, Thunderbolt started to transform in front of Pepper and the others. Seeing that the Thunderbolt, which had already made him admire, could turn into a nearly 4-meter-long combat robot, Natasha Romanoff felt that after so many years in agent work, none of the years he saw or heard was as exciting as today. And next to Natasha Romanoff, it was also the first time I saw the shapeshifting king just transformed into Happy. This job is so happy. No wonder Tony didn't even turn on his favorite Audi R8. The Thunderbolt is so cool. It was too late to say that it was fast, and the Thunderbolt that had completed the transformation had already arrived in front of the whip after a step burst. At the moment the whip was already swinging his plasma light whip to attack Tony, and Tony, who was in the high-speed movement racing car, had no time to dodge, and was about to be hit by the opponent. Clang! At the very moment, a huge machete caught the whip attack, allowing Tony to pass by safely. Squeak! Here, Tony escaped, and a tail flick came to a halt on the buffer zone of the track. "Happy, throw the box here." Immediately after stopping the car, Tony saw Pepper, Harpy and Natasha Romanoff on the side of the track, as well as the Mark V portable battle suit in Harpy's hand, and Roar immediately called him to throw the box to myself. Happy knew it, and threw the box in front of the car. Tony acted quickly. He immediately unfastened his seatbelt and helmet, jumped off the car, stepped on the box, pulled up with both hands, and Mark V portable battle suit was already there. Dressed up. Mark V, which only retains a simple energy cannon and protective function, eliminates the defects of previous generations of battle suits that require a large number of manipulators to assist in dressing. Although the attack power has also been greatly reduced, it is more than enough for emergency situations. And Tony also paid a big price to ask Mark to shoot, and added 2 miniature floating cannons to this portable battle suit. Compared with the original design, both defense and attack power have been greatly improved. But in the short time Tony finished dressing and turning around to look, he didn't expect the majestic and imposing whip when he appeared on the stage. At the moment, it was rubbed against the ground by a thunderbolt of fire. I saw the whip that became angry and wanted to fight back again. Just standing up, before he had time to wave the 2 whips in his hand, the machete in Thunderbolt's hand had already broken the wind. Thunder half moon cut. Zung, zung, zung. Thunderbolt fired at a speed that was undetectable by the naked eye. Mark's unique trick, Thunder Ban U/, was designed for him. In Tony's eyes, only a few blades flashed by. Patter a whole set of equipment on the whip has been sharpened by the energy. The blade parted and slid off the ground. This, although you know that you are fast at Thunderbolt, you don't need to be so fast for everything, right? I haven't appeared on stage yet. Coming to Thunderbolt, Looking at the whip that had been stunned to the ground and the wreckage of equipment scattered beside him, Tony curiously picked up the energy core in the wreckage. With the help of the analysis system of the battle suit, Tony gave it a glance. I can see that this is the arc reactor. Good job, Thunderbolt. You first go back to Pepper and the others to protect them. It seems that I still have something to talk to this terrorist gentleman. In the local detention center in Monaco, Tony launched a personal network and was led by the local police to the place where the whip was temporarily detained. Mr. Stark, we checked his fingerprints and found nothing, not even his name. We are not even sure if he can speak English. He hasn't said a word until now. The local police said. Tony led the way and introduced him. Give me 5 minutes, please. Coming to the detention room, seeing that there is no equipment and no inch of lashes on his body, Tony spoke first. It's very advanced technology, but the speed is a bit low. You can double the speed to let the anti-energy pass through the ionization plasma pipeline, but the counterfeit you made is pretty good. What I don't understand is that you can make a lot of money from it as long as you fine-tune it. You can sell it to any country on the planet, or even sell it directly on the black market. No one will reject your offer. Quote, your family is nothing more than thieves and butchers. Like every sinner, you want to rewrite your own history and erase the lives of those killed by the Stark family, so don't even think of teaching me in front of me, because you are not worthy, the whip spoke, at least to prove that he neither speaks English nor is he dumb. Then I will only ask one question: where did you steal my blueprints? My father Anton Vanke. I haven't heard of him. You should thank him, because of him you can still live well now. I didn't die because you tried to kill me, but you failed. What is the truth? You who live under the mask of hypocrisy really dare to reveal your bright and gorgeous, and look directly at the bloody truth underneath. Finally, I would like to advise you, the palladium poisoning method of death very painful. Thank you for your advice, but I will never realize that feeling. Oh, you are here. I'm glad you are here, welcome. In a wide hangar, a dining table and 2 chairs were placed abruptly in front of an private jet. Justin Hammer was sitting on one of the chairs and was dining. But when he saw the people coming, he was very excited, swallowing the food in his mouth, and stood up to greet him. Hey, what do you think you did? Hurry up and remove the handcuffs from my friend, and forgive me, I'm a big fan of you, and I don't want to leave you a bad impression. Okay, just to introduce myself, I'm Justin Hammer, I want to do some business with you, come and take a seat. Quote. Hammer and the 697 friend he was talking about sat down at the table. What do you want to order? We have everything. You can order whatever you want. But then you also want to kill Tony Stark, am I right? I saw you attacking him on the racing track, and you were standing in front of him like a heavenly soldier. When I saw it, I really felt so. If it weren't for the huge amounts of Autobots, maybe you will become the greatest genius of this era. I decided at that time that they must never let them take you away. I have abundant resources and you have outstanding talents. I think our cooperation will be a match made in heaven. Quote. That's right, the person here is the whip that has been taken into custody before. Justin Hammer saw his outstanding ability and wisdom, and more importantly, he saw Tony Stark as unpleasant as himself, which constituted an opportunity for them to cooperate. I think it's time for us to say, happy cooperation. Embarrassed and stinking, Whip and Hammer reached a cooperation with each thought. Although the Monaco attack has ended, its impact is far from over. Another evil element with an arc reactor and magical equipment appeared, breaking Tony's previous declaration that he could maintain world peace by himself. To make matters worse, although the appearance of the Thunderbolt alleviated the public's anxiety, it also made the politicians of the military committee set their sights on Mark. They can't wait to force this fascinating father and son to put the powerful mechanical technology in their hands into their own hands, because this powerful force can fascinate anyone. Where is Tony? After hearing that Tony had returned to the manor, Rod rushed over immediately. He couldn't believe that Tony's steel battle suit had already made him caught in the middle of his head. Now let's add for the car robot invented by his little nephew. Rod felt that the faintly visible hair on his head had to retire honorably because of this incident. In the villa, Pepper and the undercover Natasha Romanoff are dealing with the impact of this incident on Stark Industry for Tony. Driven by the Mark Research Center, The company's stock price does not fluctuate very much, but the media and people's fishing boats still keep them busy. With no expense, Pepper was confessing his work to the employees on the phone. He just pointed his finger in the direction of the underground garage, which was regarded as answering Rhodes' question. Sir, the search is complete. Anton Vanke, a physicist from the former Soviet Union, defected to America in 1963, but he was accused of being a spy and was deported in 1967. His son, who attacked you on the track, Ivan Vanke, is also a physicist. He was betrayed and served 15 years in Kepisko prison for selling weapons-grade plutonium materials from the Soviet era to other countries. No other records. Quote, after returning home, Tony began to ask Jarvis to help him search for information about Anton Vanke. In these information, Tony saw photos of his father Howard working with Anton Vanke, which made him think. The waves. Isn't it okay to let Sister Pepper handle the company's affairs by herself? You are wayward enough this time. I'm caught between you and her. I'm not a person inside and out. Now I'm being targeted by the old senator. Ah. And compared to investigating this Ivan Vanke, I think you should spend more energy on Grandpa's research materials to solve the hidden dangers in the chest as soon as possible. I understand, it's just, before Tony could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Rod, who entered the garage. Tony, and Mark, it's great that you are here too. You have to go upstairs to get this done. You don't know that it took me a whole day today to convince the militia not to drive the tank over, smash through your door, and take these away. If they really want to take your steel battle suit, they will come and take it away, and they won't bother to play games with you. Quote, if they do, then I will show them how powerful the Dominator is. Mark said confidently. What Dominator? Mark, don't make any new movements, otherwise they will only meet to discuss how to divide your fat, instead of being threatened by your so-called Dominator. Hey, Tony, how are you doing? As he spoke, Rod, who noticed something wrong with Tony, immediately leaned over and asked. Quickly, Uncle Rod, move him to the nutritional dormancy cabin. Mark also hurriedly jumped up and gave instructions. He has not repaired his body these days, nor has he taken chlorophyll to suppress the toxins in his body. The depressed mood has caused the accumulation of palladium in the body in excess. Toxin. Mark, you must tell me in a moment, what are you hiding from me? Rod said to Mark seriously, and quickly picked up Tony and put him in the dormant cabin. Now it's time to tell me the truth, Mark. Well, it's like this. So, Tony has been experiencing symptoms of palladium poisoning for several months, and you have kept everyone in the dark during this time. You should at least believe me. Why do you have to fight alone? Rod felt a little distressed about Tony's stubbornness. He wanted to protect the world by himself, but he forgot that after taking off his steel battle suit, he was just a smarter ordinary person. But now, this battle suit not only protects his safety, but also shields his heart, making him no longer willing to show his vulnerability and pain in front of his friends. Uncle Rod, although you are Dad's best friend, you are also a soldier and a soldier. The more you know, the easier it is to confuse friendship and loyalty. Just like the last hearing. You originally went to court to help Dad, but as a soldier, you still had to act according to Congressman Stern's request. Dad didn't want you to be embarrassed. I know, I just think that what my friend did is really unqualified. What's the matter with that nutrient dormant bin? Can it alleviate the symptoms of Tony's palladium poisoning? No problem, Mark said, patting his chest. The nutritional dormancy chamber is an auxiliary facility that I built for a long time in the virtual reality and to speed up the opening time in the virtual world. The nutrient solution is used to create Captain America. The super soldier serum is modified to remove toxins and waste from the body, speed up wound healing, and repair damaged cells and genes. It was precisely because the old man used the dormant chamber to repair his body on a regular basis, this has not been a major problem. It was only this time that due to external psychological stimulation and his own lack of attention, even if he added chlorophyll, it accelerated the penetration of palladium into the body, which led to the onset of the disease just now. Quote, after listening to Mark's explanation, Rod's heart was relieved, but at the same time he was secretly shocked, because Mark's invention was so important for a soldier who was born and died on the battlefield. With it means that even if you are seriously injured on the battlefield, as long as you can insist on returning to the station, you can quickly recover from your injury and return to the battlefield. The most important thing is that the body repair of the nutritional dormancy chamber not only has no side effects, but is of great benefit to the human body. Once this technology is promoted, it will not only give soldiers a greater protection for their lives, but also prevent soldiers from being disabled and forced to retire. Thinking of this, Rod almost spoke to Mark, asking him to license this technology to the military committee. But Rod was sober quickly, and he sorted out his thoughts in an instant. Now the military commission is still forcing Tony and Mark to hand over the steel battlesuit and Autobot technology in their hands. If he raises this request now, it will only be counterproductive. Possible cooperation is stranded. It's amazing ability, Mark, maybe you will become even more amazing than your grandfather Howard Stark and your father Tony. Now that Tony is fine, tell me what you think and what you plan to do. Dealing with the aggressiveness of the military committee. Oh, Mark shook his head and sighed, this matter can only be listened to by the old man, and I can't be the master. You also know that he is soft or hard, even if it makes him unhappy. Do not eat hard and soft, he will find the opportunity to retaliate back sooner or later, let alone compromise. And with the pissiness of the guys on the military committee, if they really get the battlesuit and my shape-shifting King Kong, I think World War III is really not far away. Quote. Hearing Mark's answer, Rod was silent and did not reply, but from the helpless look in his eyes, he was quite agreeable to this analysis. After all, he knew the military committee and Tony very well. But what? Rod asked quickly, and from Mark's tone, he seemed to have a solution. Actually, it is not impossible to compromise. It is just that the method must take into account the face of the military committee and Tony's feelings. So, if Uncle Rod you represent the military and ask Tony to authorize you a piece of armor, then the military committee thinks this is Tony's softness to them, and Tony thinks this is a gift to a friend, not a good military. Fang bowed his head. Quote. Good idea, Rod. She smiled, or the brains of smart people are different. Mark's little head is really brilliant, and it solves the problem that has caused him so long a headache. If the plan is really feasible, he will no longer have to be caught between the military committee and Tony and be in a dilemma. Then let's wait for Tony to wake up, and then plan. But this only solves Tony's problem. Now those people are looking at you together, Rod reminded Mark. In fact, he too with a little thought, if Mark can serve as a supplier to provide the military with nutritional dormancy cabins, then everyone will be happy. As for me, isn't it easy to stop these politicians who have never seen the world? I have a good thing at the bottom of the box that I haven't seen the light yet. Mark chuckled softly and responded. Lord's question. Although Mark did not come up with the nutritional dormancy capsule as a compromise, but looking at his confident expression, Rod knew that this is definitely an invention comparable to the shape-shifting King Kong. If Mark knows his idea, don't underestimate the power of Roar. This invention has its power. Shape-shifting King Kong can't keep up with it even by shooting horses. But if you talk about the money-burning speed of this invention, that's shape-shifting. King Kong just can't catch up with it in this life, otherwise Mark can make it cheaper by the military committee. Regardless of who you are, in the end you have to obediently bring the money to yourself. Found it. Mark brought Rod to his room and spent nearly half an hour in the collection room, only to find a dusty metal suitcase. That's it. When I made it, I was so happy. Unfortunately, because of the technical limitations after death, even if sterling silver is used as the material for the supercapacitor, the battery life is still not satisfactory, so I have been collected here, I haven't taken it out again. Later, although there were better capacitor technology and more energy supply solutions, compared with my newly invented floating cannon, the practicability of this work was a bit stretched, so I didn't upgrade it again. Quote. While introducing his long dusty invention to Rod, Mark opened the combination lock on the box. Click, the lock is opened. The invention of 697 that appeared in this small suitcase is a cylindrical object less than 20 centimeters in length. The whole invention is silver gray, with a red round button in the middle. There is a circular groove at the bottom, which seems to be what accessories need to be filled in. The top of the cylinder is a spar with a beautiful cut surface. Rod also couldn't see what was special about something. How do you use this thing? Rod picked up the silver-gray cylinder and fiddled with it a few times, but he didn't have a clue at all. This requires a supercapacitor to be used. I will find out if I have a fully charged one. Here is one. Find a usable supercapacitor from the messy toolbox, and Mark put it in the groove at the end of the cylinder. Only a click sound was heard. The capacitor was locked by the cylinder, and the unknown crystal on the top of the cylinder also emitted a faint light. This thing can be said to be an individual shielded field, or it can be said to be a shielded field model. The whole invention consists of a supercapacitor for energy at the bottom, a Holtzmann field effect generator in the middle, and a developing device at the top. After the electrical energy in the supercapacitor passes through the Holtzmann field effect generator, it will form a spherical energy protection field, which can prevent any objects from entering it. The developing device on the top can remind the user of the range and intensity of the energy field. The higher the developing brightness, the greater the shielding field intensity, and vice versa, the lower the intensity. Quote. Wait, Rod interrupted Mark's self-explanatory explanation a bit bluntly, and said straightforwardly, I don't understand your principles or anything, you just need to tell Mao to use this thing. What's the use? Well, in simple terms, it is how much energy is in the capacitor, then the shielding field it expands can shield the attack of equivalent energy. And the larger the device, the larger the capacitance and the energy in the capacitor. There are also more, so compared to individual equipment, it can withstand more violent attacks when used in a wide range of defenses. You mean, this invention can not only be used by a single soldier, as long as it has ability, it can also be enlarged and applied to a larger range. Rod looked at Mark incredulously, severely shocked. Although this invention didn't have any lethality, it even surpassed the shock of shapeshifting King Kong, making Rod's eyes straight when he saw it. Probably that's what I mean. But I just said that this invention has a defect of huge amounts of energy. To maintain its long-term operation, supercapacitors need to have huge amounts of capacity, and at the same time remain light and portable. The only material that can meet this condition is graphene, and there is only one company in the world that holds the patent rights and can produce graphene in large quantities. At present, there is only one Mark Research Center in the world. In short, you can use it for money. On the other hand, if you want to expand the defense range, in addition to expensive construction costs and material costs, it is also a huge expense to charge huge amounts of capacitors. At present, only the world can provide large and cheap clean energy. The arc reactor in my old man's hands, I want to use the same I have to pay. In other words, if I submit this invention to the military committee, on the surface, I compromised with them. In fact, they not only send a lot of money to me and my father every year, but we also control a supply chain. I won't lose money on this transaction. Quote. Rod also nodded and agreed with Mark's point of view. This is a win-win deal. The lifeblood of the supply chain, then they will not dare to stare at you easily. The military committee has also obtained the technology and face it wants, and its attack and defense have been greatly improved. But all of this must be based on your technology being as reliable as you say. Rod didn't want to doubt Mark's ability by saying this, but only seeing is believing, and seeing the shielding field's protective ability, Rod can use this as a condition to help Tony and Mark negotiate with the military council. Then let's have a try. Outside of Stark Manor, Rod took Mark in his car and asked nervously and distressed-edly, do you really want to do this? Oh, Mark sighed impatiently. Uncle Rod, this is the 12th time you have asked me this question in these 10 minutes. I'm sure it must be, and for sure, you just have to step on the gas pedal to the big tree. Just hit it, and I promise that the shielding field will protect your car from injury. The big deal is that I will pay you one. Okay, now that I have you, Uncle, I can rest assured. Rod is not worried about the safety of the two, not to mention the high-tech magic suit on Mark. He also cares about the seat belts and airbags of his car. Still very confident. The only thing I worry about is his car. After all, he is not so rich as the Stark family. If it is really crashed, he will feel distressed. Boom! Rod released the brake by and slammed on the accelerator. With the roar of the engine, the car quickly accelerated, leading the two of them straight into the big tree in front. After a long while, realizing that he didn't feel the impact of any impact, Rod slowly opened his eyes. In front of me is the shielding field displayed by the developing device. The brightness is much dimmer compared to before the impact. It seems that it consumes a lot of energy to withstand the impact. The poor tree selected as the target has shattered under the influence of the shielding field, and is not broken like an ordinary impact. Rod cautiously put up a reverse gear and reversed backwards, and the car was still moving and very smooth. Remembering that he didn't feel any impact in the collision just now, Rod looked at Mark and showed a meaningful smile. "What are you two doing here?" Standing by the car window, Tony looked at Rod and Mark in the car suspiciously. "You woke up, Tony." Rod turned around and saw Tony standing next to the car. He immediately opened the door and got out of the car, giving Tony a big hug. Tony struggled to push Rhodes away. "I don't have the habit of hugging men, so I go. I'm just eating irregularly and causing low blood sugar. For this little problem, Mark's nutritional dormancy cabin is still very useful." Seeing Tony still trying his best to hide his physical condition, Rod put his hand on his shoulder, looked at Tony's eyes and said seriously, "Don't lie to me, Tony. Mark has already told you everything. Palladium poisoning is not a small problem like hypoglycemia. A single injection of glucose is no problem. I just want you to know that if there is a need, then this friend of mine is at least worth relying on." I knew that Mark's big mouth couldn't hold the door. All my secrets were revealed from this stinky boy. Tony also gave Mark a vicious look. "But you don't need to be too much. I'm worried. Palladium poisoning is not a threat to my life because of the nutritional dormancy capsule given to me by Mark. After the repair was completed just now, I measured the blood toxin content and it was completely cleared. Moreover, I have gained a lot of inspiration from reading the manuscripts left by my father these days. I believe that new elements that can replace the palladium element will soon be created. I am a genius, and this difficulty cannot hold me back." Quote. "Rod, I hope so. But before that, you have to solve the immediate problem. For the military committee, Mark has given a solution that has the best of both worlds. I think you should listen to it." Quote. "Oh, Mark came up with the idea. Then it seems that the politicians of the military committee have to prepare for the bleeding." Zizi Moruofu, before he heard what Mark's plan was, Tony had already guessed that Mark was targeted. The party must be out of luck. Sure enough, after listening to Rod's description of Mark, Tony was overjoyed. "It's amazing, ha ha ha. Mark, you kid deserves to be the #1 profiteer in the world in my mind. Rod, for a while, you put on the Mark II battle suit and take Mark's shielded field generator back. I'd like to see if the politicians of the military committee will fall into this trap." Next, according to Mark's plan, Tony opened the authorization of Mark II to Rhodes and asked him to return to the military base with the shielded field generator. The progress of the plan is also very smooth. After seeing the Mark II and the shielded field generator brought back by Rod, the greedy politicians of the military committee seem to have foreseen the huge amounts of political achievements they can bring to themselves, so they don't. The thoughtful hotel has fallen into the trap created by Mark. Soon the military commission dropped the accusation against Tony. On the other hand, the reputation of Stark Expo was gradually fermenting. The novel ideas and inventions brought by the expo were refreshing and fascinating for all visitors to the exhibition, which made the stock price of Stark Industry consecutive, rising continuously for several days. Coupled with Pepper's resolute and efficient management methods, a crisis that is still in the making is so eliminated in the invisible. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. In Stark manner, in the happy birthday song of Mark and Pepper, Tony blew out the candles on the cake and made his 42nd birthday wish. Tony didn't have a big birthday party this year, nor did he put on a steel battle suit and fight War Machine. He just celebrated this special day with his most important person. Although the palladium poisoning crisis this time did not really endanger his life, it made him even more aware of what he should cherish. At the moment of making a wish at this moment, Tony felt that this might be his 42 years. The richest moment in life. Happy birthday, Tony. This is my gift to you. Pepper delivered a beautifully wrapped gift box to Tony. The pink ribbon is tied on the dark blue wrapping paper, and a small card is hung on the ribbon, which says Pepper Potts wishes Tony Stark happy birthday. Tony opened the gift and saw a beautiful pure white ceramic cup inside. I suddenly fell in love with chlorophyll drinks during the period before I saw you, so I specially made this ceramic cup by myself. You can use it to hold your favorite drink in the future. Thank you, I like it very much. Although the gift is not expensive, it is a gift that Pepper carefully observed Tony's living habits and made by hand. For Tony, it is more precious than any expensive gift. My gift is relatively simple. As he said, Mark raised his hand and looked at his watch, as almost the same time. The gift should have arrived. Come out with me and look up to the sky. Da da da. In the dark night sky, the sound of a propeller turning came to Tony's ears. Soon, a helicopter really landed from the sky and landed on the tarmac of the manor. It was an orange and white twin-rotor helicopter. Feeling the airflow brought by it when it landed, Tony knew that its horsepower and speed would never be weak. This is my birthday gift for you. Knowing that you like shapeshifting King Kong, I specially designed and manufactured this helicopter shapeshifting King Kong for you. Its name is Tornado. The wings on the propellers can be turned into double knives and become his weapons. However, there are a large number of floating gun units on both sides of the fuselage, which can be said to be the shapeshifting diamond with the most powerful attack power and maneuverability I have made so far. After looking at the Tornado carefully, Tony turned his head and looked at Mark seriously and said, "Actually, I feel that since I escaped from 10 Rings on July 16 last year, I have been born again. So I want to have another birthday on that day. What do you think? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."